Here again, a time for a football game loaded with tradition and music. For Grambling State, this season was supposed to be a rebuilding year, but the young Tigers have surprised many and impressed their first-year head coach. For Southern University, this season picked up where last year's national title campaign left off. Running roughshod over the SWAC competition, now only the Jaguars' old rivals stand between them and a spot in the conference championship game. And at halftime, we'll bring you one of the great spectacles in sports, the Battle of the Bands. The ultimate rivalry in black college sports is next. NBC Sports presents the 31st annual State Farm Bayou Classic as Southern University faces Grambling State University. And inside the Superdome, Grambling star quarterback Bruce Eugene, there you see him, number 10, trying to get his teammates revved up. Now, Eugene was injured in Game 1 and lost for the entire season, and his replacement, Brandon Landers, and Landers is a true freshman. Well, hi, everyone. Lewis Johnson in New York. I'll be your host throughout the day, and there's certainly plenty on the line today. Southern University looking to stay unbeaten in the Southwestern Athletic Conference and earn a spot in the conference championship game. The Jaguars have won the Bayou Classic 10 of the last 11 years. Now, Grambling State, on the other hand, is hoping to play spoiler. The Tigers are 5-5 and looking to avoid their first losing season in 6 years. Well, with more on the matchup, let's head down to the Big Easy and join our announced team of Bob Papa, Charles Davis, and Don McPherson. Bob?
Thank you so very much, Lewis. The Superdome in New Orleans, the host for the State Farm Bayou Classic, as Grambling State squares off against the Southern Jaguars. The Jaguars are riding high. They've won 6 in a row. They're 8-2, the defending SWAC Conference champions. A win today against their arch rivals puts them back in the championship game. And you could just throw out the records when you talk about this rivalry. And when you take a look at Southern, they're like a train on the fast track right now, Charles, and they're led by their quarterback, T.R. Ricks.
They have quite an engineer right now, don't they? Because T.R. Ricks is a fifth-year senior who's getting his first chance to drive the train that Bob talked about. And right now, he's driving it quite well because the Southern Jaguars are kicking butt in the SWAC conference. As Bob mentioned, 6-0 overall in the SWAC, and T.R. Ricks has played so well. Over 2,000 yards passing. In the last 3 games running the football, he's been over 100 yards on the ground. The respect factor that he gets from his teammates is incredible. As a fifth-year senior who's never started, they elected him captain. And the numbers he has put up are represented on your screen. 27 total touchdowns on the offense, a pass percentage of nearly 60%. He could be the SWAC Player of the Year on the offensive side. And what they need today is a great performance by him and the new Dog Day defense to also play quite well.
When you talk about Grambling State, they're 5-5. This program's synonymous with the great Eddie Robinson. Doug Williams was the head coach for 6 years. He left for the NFL. Melvin Spears is the head coach now on an interim basis, and he wants to win this game badly. And Don, he's got the deck stacked against him a little bit because he's got to play a true freshman quarterback.
Absolutely. Things went from bad to worse for Grambling State when they lost their All-American quarterback, Bruce Eugene. In steps the true freshman, Brandon Landers. When you talk about this young man, they talk about his poise. He's been impressive, setting a freshman record with 2,000 yards passing. But defensively for Grambling, they must step it up today. When you're struggling with a young quarterback, the defense has to step it up. Kenneth Petway is atop the SWAC conference with tackles for a loss and in sacks, and he's going to have to put pressure on that Thomas Ricks from Southern University. This is his championship game.
The Superdome in New Orleans is fired up for Grambling State and Southern. A tremendous rivalry. It's a high-wire act on artificial turf. Fasten your seatbelt for some fast-paced football. The Bayou Classic coming your way next. The 31st Bayou Classic about set to start in New Orleans. Grambling State and Southern. This game is such a huge rivalry. Let's check in with the two head coaches, starting with Southern University's Pete Richardson.
Records, you can just discard them in this football game because it's more of a culture type of game. I tell the players the game is for the alumni and the fans and administration, and our job is just to show up and do the best we can and win the football game.
I don't think you can have anything better than going down against your rivalry team, and particularly against Southern University, in order to have a winning season. And the competition of going against Pete Richardson, who I think is one of the best coaches in the country, we're just elated about it, and I think our guys are up for the task.
Southern has won 16 of the previous 30 Bayou Classics. Working the sidelines today, we welcome in Darren Horton.
Well, Bob, I talked to both head coaches seconds ago. Pete Richardson says he wants his team to win two aspects of this game: special teams and the turnover battle. As for Melvin Spears, he says three things that Grambling must do today: play with great enthusiasm, play with great discipline, and play for 60 minutes. Back upstairs to Bob.
Thank you, Darren. The coin toss won by Grambling State. By Southern, and Grambling State will kick off as you get a look at the series. Southern has won 10 of the last 11. Last year, a thriller. Brian Morgan will kick off back deep. Kevin Moffitt and Gabe Wallace. Moffitt has returned one for a touchdown. Wallace with the chance, and he fumbles the football, and it scoots out of bounds. Actually, they switched up. It was Albert Turner who got the opportunity, but Southern will have the football to start 1st and 10. They get a look at a little miscue here for Southern.
The first thing you do is holding the ball in the wrong hand. Little kids watching at home, put it in the outside arm.
So there is T.R. Ricks, the redshirt senior for Southern. Outstanding season. 59% completion rate this year. 1st and 10. They're going to get it to Vernon, one of their playmakers. And wow, he's plastered by Michael Daig, the strong safety for Grambling State. Let's take a look at the Ford lineups, and we'll start with the Southern offense. Ricks, completion percentage of 59% on the year. Mania Smith, the big left tackle, 340 pounds. This is an experienced group up front. You saw Vernon. He can run it. He can catch it.
Illegal substitution. Number 21 on the offense. 5 yards. Still 2nd down.
Now, referee is Hubert Owens. And an illegal substitution. So rough start for Pete Richardson's squad. They don't make a lot of mistakes.
Usually very disciplined program with Pete Richardson at the helm.
2nd and 14. Ricks feeling some pressure, avoids the sack and able to get it away. Petway got pressure along with Jimmy Zachary. As we continue with the Ford lineups, the proud sponsor of the State Farm Bayou Classic. The defense, we mentioned Zachary. Petway will watch him all day. 8.5 sacks. They'll move him around the line of scrimmage. Robertson, Carr, and Anthony, the linebackers. Carr in the middle, a big hitter. Secondary, Daig anchors it from his safety spot. Couple sophomores on the corners. 3rd and 14 with a blitz on. And a late flag comes in as Rogers Taylor felt he was held out on the left flat.
Already we see Grambling State doing what they want to do all day, which is put pressure on Ricks, force him to make throws sooner than he wants to make them. Had a little pressure on the outside, man-to-man coverage, pressure on the inside, man-to-man coverage on the outside.
Yeah, they look like a zone blitz out of man free with a safety in the middle. And they're going to call a penalty against Grambling.
Oh. Number 6 on the offense. Holding. Number 28 on the defense. On penalties offset. Replay it down.
So offsetting penalties. Lewis Carter was called for the defensive hold. Emil Bryant, the illegal shift.
Don't be surprised if Grambling tries to do a similar defense as they did on the last play. Don, you saw them with the blitz, playing man on the corners, man free. What they want to do is keep the ball in front, rally to it, and make the tackle on a 3rd and long situation. They just want the football now.
3rd and 14. Ricks looking for Overstreet. Can't make the catch, but another flag. Greg Fassett, the sophomore from right here in New Orleans, going to get flagged for a penalty.
Well, what a sloppy start to this game, but that official was pretty slow with that call. I think that was a pretty decent call, good coverage by Fassett on the corner.
The back judge got him on that one. Trying to play
Pass
the ball.
Number 29 on the defense. 15 yards from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Greg Fassett, a 19-year-old from Kennedy High School here in New Orleans.
See how he's looking into the receiver? Now he's going to try and locate the football. He does it as his body goes into the receiver. I'm a former defensive back. I wouldn't have thrown the flag, but I can understand why. Not able to get his head around and play the ball.
You're a former defensive back.
He's ended up playing the body. Of course not. That's a good play by the DB, right?
Holmes with the carry, picks up 11 to midfield, and another flag comes in, a late flag. Gerald Holmes, a redshirt senior, played his high school ball here in New Orleans. 81 carries on the season coming in, averaging almost 6 yards a pop.
Face mask. 26 on the defense. 5 yards to the end of the run. First down.
So Michael Daig, who really has to anchor a young secondary, gets called for the penalty.
We saw Daig earlier in the game get a big hit. And this time, as he goes and tries to make the tackle, see, he gets the face mask with his left hand, pulling down the runner. Good call by the officials.
Southern with a 1st and 10 at the 44. Here's where Ricks is dangerous in a little space, and he picks up about 4 to the 40-yard line. A.J. Bocard came in and made the tackle. We take a look at the offensive rankings for Southern this year. Impressive numbers.
They are very impressive, considering this is Thomas Ricks' first year starting with the loss of Quincy Richard. This is an impressive turnaround for Southern to keep the offense going.
Lost all their top receivers all from last year. Only had one guy come back who had a catch.
Holmes again picks up a couple. Good pursuit to the football. John Petty and Petway there to make the play. Petway, a tackling machine, very mature young man. We had a chance to visit with him yesterday, and really taking ownership of this ball club on his shoulders with the defense of Grambling State.
You know, when we talked about the young quarterback Brandon Landers, he said from week 1 this defense has put this team on their backs.
3rd and 5. Ricks can't find his receiver. Little slant, threw it behind him.
And that's a tough throw for Ricks, because they stay in the shotgun so often for Southern University that when he has to throw hot, when he has to throw that quick pass, it's hard to get that ball in the shotgun and get it off accurately. I
think they'll go for it here on 4th down, too, because of field position. Neither team has a great punting game, and field goal kicker to be a long kick. They've had a good drive. This would be a good time to go for it.
Vernon, the motion man. Ricks in a shotgun. Has Vernon trying to get to the sticks.
He did not get
He did not get there. He needed to get to the 34, and he's stopped short. Good pursuit to the football by Grambling State.
And you got to put that on Vernon. He has to get first down depth before he makes his move to the flat. And it was just kind of a little hitch and slide to the outside route for Vernon. He has to get first down depth before he makes his move.
And you also have to give credit to Luther Palmer, the defensive coordinator for Grambling. He put a blitz on, made Ricks get rid of the ball quickly before he wanted to, and stopped him short.
And how about the sophomore, Bakari Geis from Monroe, Louisiana, who came up and made the play.
Good play by him.
Starting lineups for Grambling State, brought to you by Ford, the proud sponsor of the State Farm Bayou Classic, and the quarterback Brandon Landers, the true freshman. 18 touchdown passes on the season. Nathan Banks, 360 pounds, the left tackle. A true freshman Cockrell at center. They'll run it on 1st down. Does Grambling State. We take a look at the rest of the Grambling offense. And Ab Kwan, a key man. He's come on over the last couple of weeks. Terrion Rogers will rotate in and out. Clyde Edwards is a true freshman from Houston. 29 catches this season. Edwards will go to the top of your screen. 2nd and 6 as Quan got 6 on the play. Quan again stood up and turned down, and a late flag comes in as well.
Well, Bob, the key for Grambling is going to be to protect Brandon Landers in the 1st quarter. You want this young man to get off with a nice quarter with no mistakes, so they're going to run the ball for him. You're going to see some draws in the pass game. So you're going to see a very conservative offense in the 1st quarter for Grambling State.
Face mask. Number 95, defense. 5 yards to the end of the run. Result of the penalty is a 1st down.
Take a look at the defensive lineups for Southern, brought to you by Ford. And that front up front, Charles Lemons and Perry Davis in the middle. Try to stop up that run. Taris Morgan, the linebacker, is a big play linebacker and the leader of this defense. Wallace and Phillips anchor the secondary. And Trudeau with 8 interceptions on the season on a 1st and 10. Again, Grambling State just keeping it on the ground. Ruben Mays, a sophomore from Memphis, on the carry.
Don talked about how Grambling wants to protect Brandon Landers early in the game to make sure that he can get off to a good start by running the football, screens, draws, simple throws when he does. Tommy Doral, number 68, an offensive lineman, is lining up in the backfield right now to give Grambling a little more oomph in the run game to try and do exactly as Don described. Get Landers settled, get him started in the ball game early.
It's a heck of a fullback at 300 pounds. 2nd down, Mays. Finding room. Mays still on his feet. He has a 1st down inside the 40 before he's finally brought down.
And when you have a 300-pound fullback, what do? You stand right behind him and follow him through the hole.
Exactly. Just as you described. Watch 68 leading. There he is, Doral. He's the fullback. Great lead block. Gets a little bit of help also on the outside from the tight end. Great job by Grambling pushing the pile and moving the line of scrimmage against Southern.
And the right guard, Darryl Rogers, we'll talk more about him with a big block, too, to seal the edge.
76.
1st and 10. Southern anxious.
Speaking of Darryl Rogers.
Call his name?
I think he heard you.
So are we blaming Bob for that one?
Well, let's see if he's guilty first.
Offsides. Number 95. Defense. 5-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
How about that, Bob? Off the hook on that one.
He was tricked.
That's Tex Lemons, number 95, jumping with the penalties already. We've seen some jumpy play from both teams. Penalties, a fumble, a couple of face masks. It's the emotion of the game. Guys will have to settle in. I think things will smooth out as we go along.
So 1st and 5 for Grambling State. Quan dropped in the backfield. Excellent pursuit by the football by Renee Gettridge, the junior from New Orleans.
Yeah, Gettridge only about 225 pounds as defensive end. Very, very quick.
They call him the stick man because of his build. And on this play, the stick was more like an oak, wasn't he?
Well, that's what happened.
Slid inside and was able to front up on Ab Quan. No one blocked him. And when you're an unblocked player, you should make that tackle.
That's right.
So now 2nd and 7 for Grambling State. Quan, no running room there. Gabe Wallace, the strong safety on the tackling. You know, talking with the Southern players yesterday and Taris Morgan, they said Gabe Wallace is one of the guys in the huddle that really goes crazy before the games.
And this is his first Bayou, so you know he's really feeling that emotion. And that's what they need. This Southern team is very poised. They are very mature. When you talk to these guys, they're very kind of measured in how they talk. But you need a guy like Gabe Wallace. You need a guy like Hurst on that defensive, in that secondary, to get the emotion up when things go flat.
And Gabe Wallace is a transfer from Mississippi State, a graduate student. That's why this is his first classic, playing his 5th year here. Taris Morgan, also a transfer from Mississippi State.
3rd and long. Landers, oh boy, he had his receiver wide open and couldn't find him. Terrion Rogers was open for a 1st down.
I can tell you there is nothing like your first pass as a young quarterback when you're feeling geeked, you're feeling excited, the nerves are going. They've been protecting him in the run game, and here it is, a simple play-action pass. He's got a guy wide open, just overthrows it. He has got to settle down, and that's the big key for this freshman quarterback, is settling down in this big venue. He's got to settle down and let the game come to him. And
wasn't that exactly the type of pass they wanted to throw to help him get settled? A pretty easy pass back in the flat. He just misfired, right?
Grambling State's going to have to call a timeout. The play clock down to 3. They didn't have the play in as they talk about their 4th down play. Melvin Spears, the head coach at Grambling State. 6 years as the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. And they're trying to figure out which play they'll come up with for 4th and 6 as we continue with the 31st Bayou Classic on NBC. Bayou Classic is brought to you by Ford, built for the road ahead. By the United States Marine Corps, the few, the proud, the Marines. And by State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Visit a local agent today. New Orleans, Louisiana, home of the Bayou Classic, the Superdome. Bob Papa, Don McPherson, Charles Davis, Darren Horton, and Lewis Johnson in the first quarter. 9:01 to go. Grambling State in the white will go for it here on 4th and 6 at the 36 of Southern. Landers looking for the deep ball, batted away, and then grabbed by Landry Carter off the deflection. And that's a first down at the 26-yard line.
Now, I know it's too early to make this call, but if Grambling wins this game, that's the immaculate reception.
Right, and what they ran this against was a nickel package by Southern with 2 deep in the secondary. And it was excellent coverage. Victor Phillips, number 34, he's back there covering. And look at the break on the ball. That's number 30, Jarvis Bridges. Did everything correctly. And look at the hit absorbed by Brandon Landers from Renee Getridge. He's lucky there's not a penalty because of how high the shot was on the quarterback. But Landry Carter in the right spot.
Ruben Mays still on his feet, using his size inside the 20 to 16-yard line.
Bob, you have to go back to that last call by Grambling State to have confidence in their young quarterback with 4th and 7 on the line. Let them drop back with 5 guys in the pattern. It's showing a little bit of character about this Grambling State team that they're going to go for it and they're going to give the reins to their young quarterback in this ball game.
And both teams have gone for it on 4th down in this game. Southern unsuccessful on their attempt. Grambling successful on theirs. A 5-5 team with nothing to lose, playing it loose already.
So 1st and 10 for Grambling State at the Southern 15. They're going to run it on 1st and 10. That's Terrion Rogers, the sophomore from Houston, inside the 10 to about the 8-yard line. Nice pickup on 1st down. They'll use Rogers, Kwan, and Ruben Mays to run it.
And they're still using their heavy lineup, leading with Tommy Durrell, number 68 in the fullback slot.
And Charles, you called it. With Durrell in the backfield, it's like having 6, maybe 7, even with the tight end offensive lineman on the field. And they're just going to run power game, protect their quarterback, and eat up this clock, keep Thomas Ricks on the sideline.
2nd and 3 at the 8. And Andre Bennett, the right tackle, the sophomore from Vicksburg, Mississippi, a cousin of former NFL star Cornelius Bennett.
Biscuit Bennett, I had the pleasure of playing against him, if you want to call it a pleasure, playing against Biscuit Bennett, because that man did some damage on the football field in college
Prior
of Alabama.
to the snap, false start. 79 on the offense. 5 yards, still 2nd down.
And guys, we all know this. 350 pounds, once you put it in motion,
can't stop it.
You're not recalling it.
Can't stop it. In fact, once you put that much weight on your hand in a stance, once you think about going forward, it's over.
Remember the 49ers used to use this type of a formation under Bill Walsh. Guy McIntyre would go into the backfield. They called it the elephant package.
Now Southern wants a defensive timeout here in the first with 7:11 to go. And this game tied, scoreless right now, but obviously Grambling State with an opportunity here inside the 10. Well, win a trip for 2 to the Caribbean or next year's State Farm Bayou Classic. For a chance to win, stay tuned to today's broadcast and record all 4 codes and then log onto ebony.com to play and enter. Today's Watch and Win is brought to you by Ebony Magazine, Southwest Airlines, BSC Sports and Entertainment, and NBC Sports. Log on to ebony.com for official rules. Speaking of winning, Pete Richardson, the head coach of Southern, knows nothing but winning. He's won 10 of these 11 Bayou Classics. And he is a very well-organized, disciplined man. Spoke to Chris Davis, former wide receiver for Southern, who's now on the New York Giants, and he said, no coach could have prepared me more for Giants head coach Tom Coughlin and his discipline than Pete Richardson.
It's a big-time compliment there. That's what tells you what Pete Richardson's all about. Making sure you attention to detail and task-oriented.
2nd and 8. Landers, little screen. Rogers ripped down by Taris Morgan. That's his 86th tackle of the season.
Taris Morgan, very smart, mature young man, very quick. Again, talk about his intelligence. He reads his play, sniffs it out. There he is in the middle of your screen. He's just going to come down the line That's what you want from your inside linebacker. You want him to be able to sniff it out on the inside and make the play on the perimeter.
Great responsibility. The back was his guy and was able to avoid the traffic, skate outside, and come underneath and make the tackle.
Morgan, a marketing major, and just so highly thought of by not only his teammates, but the entire program. On a third down, Landers on the boot gets sacked. Gettridge gets his 5th sack of the season.
That's just scouting tendencies for Southern, knowing that they don't have a lot of confidence in Landers. They want to move him around the pocket, go with some play action, and Gettridge just comes straight up the field. Bottom of your screen, here's Gettridge. He's going to come straight up the field on Landers. He takes him no matter whether he has the ball or not. He's going to make sure he's in his face every time he comes around that naked boot.
Brian Morgan will try a 39-yard field goal, his long this season, 47. He's got a big leg, but hooks that one wide left. So after converting a 4th and 6, a penalty in the red zone, and then a sack, and Grambling State comes up empty. Brandon Landers took a sack. Brian Morgan could not connect from 39 yards out. Southern's turn when we return to the Bayou Classic on NBC. Year-old T.R. Ricks, the starting quarterback for Southern University, has taken over for Quincy Richard and led the Southern University Jaguars to a great season, and he really is a leader both on and off the field.
I just think it has come to a maturity level. You know, I have a 4-year-old son, and, you know, when he was born, I had to grow up fast, and, you know, just staying in school and practicing every day, trying to get better every day, you know, just so he can have a better future. It's just been my inspiration. So, you know, I just think that's my motor that drives me and, you know, keeps me in the game.
His 4-year-old son, Collier, has not missed a game this season. They throw the football around in Rick's dorm room at Southern, and he says it's great playing football with Collier.
Raising another quarterback for the Southern Jaguars.
1st and 10 for Southern. Little shovel pass. They're able to get it to Holmes. Nice pickup on the play of 13.
It's a nice call by David Oliver, the offensive coordinator. They saw 6 defensive backs on the field from Grambling, so this is essentially a running play. If you see 6 DBs, you should be able to run the football inside the box. So what Southern did, ran a shovel pass inside, blocked it the same way you would a draw.
Shellmeyer, the tight end, the motion man. 1st and 10. Ricks. He's got Vernon. Vernon makes the catch at the 45 and tumbles down at the 46. He was working on Greg Fassett. And those sophomore corners are an area that Southern wants to exploit.
Yeah, and Charles, you mentioned having 6 DBs in the game for Grambling State, and what they're trying to do is cover the field with all those wide receivers for Southern. But here's what Southern University does.
Another receiver downfield. Number 85 was covered up. 5 yards from the previous spot. Repeat, 1st down.
Well, they call Brian Washington the 2nd tight end.
It means you have to know your formation. One of the wide receivers was on the line of scrimmage with the tight end. He has to be back off of the line of scrimmage. That's what they mean by covering him, making him ineligible. Another penalty for Southern, their 4th of the ball game. But the defensive backs for Grambling, there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them out there on the field for Grambling.
Ricks will run it, runs right into Petway, and he gets 5 back, and that's it.
Good job inside. Sorry, Bob.
The question I was going to ask you two is, we saw that alignment, and even though they have DBs in the game, everybody's up. There's no deep safety help.
Now they are as aggressive as you're going to find in man coverage. Don, right. You've seen them over the years. They tried to sell us in our meeting yesterday. They play more zone and mix it. Haven't seen much of that today.
They have all 11 guys inside of 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. 2nd and 10 for Southern. Ricks completes it to Shellmeyer's tight end, but it's only a gain of a yard for Shellmeyer, the redshirt senior, his 8th catch of the year.
And you have to give credit to the down 4 linemen for Grambling, because with so many DBs in the game, they still managed to get pressure on Ricks, not allowing him to set his feet and throw, not giving him a good path to throw. What's difficult for for Grambling is that Southern calls it offense by committee, which means all those wideouts also know the running back assignments, and vice versa. This way they can run the entire offense with all those guys in the game.
Ricks to Vernon. First down to the 46-yard line. Brandon Thompson on the tackle. And Jermaine Mills.
With so many defensive backs on the field, as Don just described, you need pressure from up front. Not much pressure there. T.R. Ricks able to find time to throw the football. And I don't care how many DBs you have in the game. If you have time to throw it, the wide receivers will find holes downfield.
Holmes trying to find some room.
Wow.
Whoa. He hit a Grambling State wall. And again, Mills was in there from his safety spot to help.
You know, Charles, you talked about how aggressive this Grambling State defense is. And you're seeing it from the 2 safeties, from Daigle and Mills. And you're going to see Mills just step right up and put the hit.
That's textbook.
Textbook tackle.
That's what they call forming up or fronting up right there. Helmet trying to get towards the football, lower than the offensive back, getting underneath him and delivering the blow.
2nd and 6. Holmes in the backfield. Ricks. First down. Daigle on the tackle, but not until Ricks picks up the first down to the 37, a gain of 13.
You know, when we talked with Southern's offensive coordinator, when we talked about what they do with their offense, they like a lot of zone blocking. They call it power. It's hard to do power, but this is just zone blocking with the tackle coming through, with Benaiah Sims coming through Smith coming through the hole there. And Ricks is just going to follow him as if he was a tailback in the I formation.
It's like old single wing football.
Ricks looking for Overstreet. Can't reel it in. Incomplete. Overstreet, I think, was thinking about running before he had it. Antonio Overstreet, a junior from Baton Rouge.
I think Overstreet was thinking about going deep before he had to come back for that.
Look at him trying to keep it alive. Now Grambling player gets to touch it there. That was Mills, I believe, number 4. And Bocard can't come up with it, number 45.
Well, if you get 5 touches on it, you should probably bring it in at some point. 2nd and 10 for Southern.
That check just came in from the bench for T.R. Ricks.
Blitz on, looking for Overstreet again. And they're ruling that uncatchable, even though there was some contact downfield.
Well, Charles, you talked about that play coming in from the sideline. There was, as Bob, as you pointed out, there was not a defensive back outside of 10 yards. Everyone was crunched to the line of scrimmage. When you see that kind of tight coverage from the defense, you have to go with the fade route. You have to start loosening up this defensive secondary.
See right there, running with him on the play. That's Bakari Geist, number 6, who comes in nickel and dime situations. Frankly, I don't think that's uncatchable. I mean, you know, he's within 2 yards of the football.
Ricks under pressure, can't find Vernon.
Very late flag.
In the secondary, a freshman, Zaire Wilborn, was on the coverage from Houston, Texas. Folks, that's not a misprint. With 2:14 to go in the first, Grambling State and Southern are scoreless.
Wouldn't have bet on that before the game, would you?
Holding, number 38, White, on an eligible receiver. 10 yards from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
And that is the freshman Wilborn called for the penalty. He was a high school All-America.
And there's one right there. There's the hole right there on the wrist.
And then he's got some jersey too. If you're going to hold, do it well.
Vernon in motion. Holmes. And that play did not fool Grambling State. Great pursuit to the football. Jason Banks making the play. Well, today's Watch and Win is brought to you by Ebony Magazine and Southwest Airlines. Write down the code displayed on screen, then log on to ebony.com for a chance to win a trip for 2 to the Caribbean or to next year's State Farm Bayou Classic. Don and Charles, you were not eligible. Charles, put that laptop away.
You can read our minds, can't you?
Charles was breaking out his laptop. Ricks going to run it inside the 25. Tough sledding so far for the running game of Southern.
Well, Bobby, you talked about the score. No one expected Grambling to be in this game as tight as they have been. But, again, lots of credit to this Grambling defense that's been very aggressive, very stingy in allowing Southern to get down the field. That front four has done a fantastic job so far, stopping the run and putting pressure on Ricks in the pass game.
I think Southern needs, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Oh, another big third down here, 3rd and 7. Ricks with the blitz on, Overstreet. Great open field tackle that time made by the sophomore Greg Fassett.
You know, that's a play call that you have to get out of as a quarterback. There was not more than, the entire defense was in 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. They're so tight to the line of scrimmage, you're not going to get the kind of space. And there is Fassett right there. He was in bump and run coverage, tight coverage the whole way. He never loosened up on the corner. You have to get out of that play.
Greg Ackley to try a field goal. 47 yards, his long this year, 41. And that kick gets blocked right at the line. And Grambling State gets another stop.
To paraphrase Shakespeare, my kingdom for a kicking game for both teams.
Shakespeare was a special teams coach?
You know, he might have been a pretty good special teams coach here because they needed.
Ackley didn't get it high enough. Grambling State makes another play. Credit the block to Jason Hatcher. Still no score. From the Superdome, the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic on NBC. Block. Jimmy Zachary, who you see sitting right there, a key player as Jason Hatcher gets his 2nd block kick of the year.
Yes, Hatcher gets the credit, but it's Zachary in the middle there, number 99 right over the nose, who's going to come in and push this guy back right here. That opens up the lane for Hatcher to get in and take it on the shoulder.
Kicker trying to get some extra oomph on it, kicks it low because he wants to kick it long. Hatcher actually got it on the way down after his vertical jump. That means that Breck Ackley didn't get much lift on the football initially.
So Ackley has the 47-yarder block. Grambling State back with the football. Freshman Brandon Landers. Ab Kwan. Kwan picks up about 4 on the play. Kwan coming off an outstanding game against Savannah State. 18 carries for 155 yards. A junior from Alabama. And that'll be the final play of the first quarter. With the score, Southern and Grambling State scoreless in a defensive battle between these two arch rivals in the Bayou Classic. We'll return to the State Farm Bayou Classic after these messages from your local NBC station.
Lewis Johnson back in New York with a quick update on the legendary Grambling coach Eddie Robinson, who spent 57 years as the Tigers head coach. Well, just a short time ago, I spoke with his lovely wife, Doris, of 58 years, and she talked about the honor of taking care of her husband, who is battling Alzheimer's. And on a lighter note, she also talked about another battle and trying to get her husband to move from that small TV in the bedroom to the brand new big screen television she recently bought, which is now in the den. Well, she actually put Eddie on the phone with me, so I chatted with the coach for a while, and he told me he still has that same feeling today for the Southern Grambling game as he did when he was coaching. And, Bob, he promised to move from the bedroom to the den and that big TV just so that he could listen to you guys.
Well, thanks, Lewis, and he gets a great view of the banner that hangs here in the Superdome in honor of Eddie Robinson.
And Coach, you should know that all of us up here in the booth and college football fans, and I tell you what, people around the country owe you so much for what you've done for college football and what you've done for so many young men, especially African-American men in higher education.
Yeah, we thank you, Coach, and we hope we don't send you back to your bedroom after listening to us.
Well, Coach, I'm sure wants to see some points. Grambling State in the white with a chance. Ab Kwan trying to get to the outside. Trudeau bumped him. Out of bounds just short of the first down marker. Well, let's take a look at our State Farm first quarter stats. Today's stats are brought to you by State Farm. For your insurance and financial needs, call a neighborhood State Farm agent today. And penalties, really the order of this ball game, 4 for each side, and that has thwarted any opportunities for any kind of offense.
Yeah, you can maybe say that's the emotion of the Bayou Classic, and we got this first quarter under our belt. I think you'll start to see both offenses start to turn it up a notch, especially on the Grambling State side. They're going to try to unleash this young man right now, Brandon Landers.
3rd and 1. Mays has the first down and gets it up to the 42-yard line. And he gets dumped there. Well, we heard Lewis talking about Coach Eddie Robinson watching on that big screen TV. Let's send it downstairs to Darren Horton. Darren?
Well, guys, Melvin Spears actually went to the house on Tuesday, and the team actually joined him. As many people know, when you're dealing with someone who has Alzheimer's disease, there are good days and bad days. And they said Tuesday was a good day. The coach talked football. He talked about the game. He was very alert. And he told Coach Spears, quote, "Cat, give them hell. Give them hell." Let's go back upstairs.
Well, defensively, Darren, the Grambling State Tigers have given Southern some rough sledding today, and we're going to get a delay of game penalty against Grambling State. Not able to get the play on 1st and 10.
Number 7 on the offense. 5 yards.
And that's part of the growing pains. They have a freshman quarterback. They have a true freshman wide receiver, a sophomore wide receiver.
True freshman at center.
Yes, and you know, we just talked about penalties and emotion of the game. Grambling comes into the game 9th in the SWAC in terms of penalties, and that doesn't mean good. And Southern comes into the game 10th. So this is almost normal for both teams in terms of their penalty output, but both would like to cut it down.
1st and 15. Quan picks up a couple, and that's it. Terrace Morgan there to make the tackle. And Morgan all over the football field.
I think both teams need to continue to exhibit patience in the running game. And what I mean by that is don't go away from it if you don't get success on each and every drive or in multiple plays in a row. It's attrition. It's taking over throughout the game. Continue to run the ball. Make them respect that, especially with a freshman quarterback, so they can't tee off and go after him in terms of Brandon Landers.
And they're going to have to start to pass the ball just a little bit to keep Southern off balance. And that's why I say they have to give this freshman quarterback some leeway.
2nd and long. Quan nowhere to go. Give credit to Gabe Wallace. He came up from his safety spot to make the initial play.
Yeah, I think on that play, it was really kind of a win-win, even though Grambling didn't gain many yards. Good job by Brandon Landers not forcing it downfield where there was no one open. Checked down to his back and threw it through the nice pass. But a great job by the Dog Day defense, stringing it out and coming up from the secondary to make the tackle.
You know, dumping the ball off like that to a back, especially in the 2nd and long situation, is something that's very hard to teach patience of a young quarterback. And that was, as you mentioned, Charles, a very smart play by Brandon Landers. Don't try to get the whole thing. Just dump it off and let your back do why you have him on the field. Let him run with the football.
Yeah, with the play clock dripping down again, Grambling State has to call a timeout. So the head coach, Melvin Spears, will continue to talk to his young quarterback. 19-year-old Brandon Landers facing a 3rd and long, the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic on NBC. Scoreless in the 2nd quarter of the State Farm Bayou Classic. Melvin Spears, the interim head coach, see him wearing those sunglasses. It's not for a look, but guys, he has some eye problems and light sensitive, and he needs to wear the sunglasses all the time.
He wears them indoors, outdoors, because of just what you said, the sensitivity to light, similar to Jim McMahon, the old Chicago Bears quarterback who did the same thing.
Don McPherson, what do you like here, 3rd and 11?
I think they're going to sprint Landers this way and go with a layered route.
False start, though, on the left tackle, Jonathan Banks. He moved his 360-pound frame a bit early.
And Southern did exactly what I thought on defense, zone blitz.
Prior to the snap, false start. 77 White on the offense, 5 yards, still 3rd down.
They want to use movement on defense to try and confuse the blocking assignments and the quarterback play calling of Brandon Landers. Again, the penalty situation continues to mount. I would not be surprised to see them come with a different type of a zone blitz here. Try and put pressure on Landers and keep the ball in front and try and get him to force a 4th down and punt the ball.
Southern has some tremendous playmakers in their secondary, guys who can hang on to the football if it's thrown up for grabs on this 3rd and long. Landers, not much for Landry Carter. Sandwiched. Great pursuit to the football. Gettridge was there.
Gabe Wallace, the safety.
Gabe Wallace.
And it's obvious that they've told Brandon Landers, don't hold on to the football. His internal clock is going to tell him to run if he holds on to it too long. So he's getting rid of the football. He's not getting a lot of yardage out of it, but he is getting rid of the football. And it's a good sign for Grambling State to get this young guy to get his clock slowed down so that he's delivering the football and not holding on to it too long. It'll come for him.
Yeah, it's a good defensive series for Cliff Lewis's defense. The Dog Day defense of Southern just played zone, kept it in front, made the tackle, forced the punt.
Tim Manuel, and they run the fake instead with Abquan. He's got a first down. Gabe Wallace trying to stop him and pushes him out at the 35-yard line, and there's a big play on special teams for the Tigers, 32 yards.
And that's going to drive Pete Richardson, the head coach of Southern, crazy. You know why? Because that's all he's talked about for 2 weeks. A 5-5 team has nothing to fear. They have nothing to worry about. They'll be loose. They'll run every fake known to person. Great job. Good block inside. That was number 61 for Grambling, making a nice block inside for him. And there he goes down the field. Big time gain. That was Aaron Randall, the snapper, who got the big block for Abquan.
You know, Melvin Spears told us yesterday his team doesn't like trick plays. Well, they like that one.
When was the last time a coach told you?
Melvin just wanted to trick us.
And now as Landers gets his team to the line, we get a whistle again. And a timeout for Southern. And a flag on the play. So Pete Richardson his team allows a fake punt, and really when you take a look at this game, this is the only way that Grambling State can win from a talent standpoint. They've got to do these kind of things.
Well, yesterday Kenneth Petway said, if I could be anywhere, this is right where we want to be as Grambling State. In this ball game, this is right where Grambling State wants to be. 0-0 with 11 and a half minutes in the first quarter. The second quarter, they're still in this ball game.
Abquan gives Grambling State a jolt on the fake punt. Now they're in scoring range. Farm Bayou Classic is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, providing non-stop service to destinations coast to coast. By Coca-Cola, let's make it real. And by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Visit a local agent today. The 31st Bayou Classic with a different twist. No score, injured player for Southern. That's Brandon Jones.
It's their starting center and the leader of their offensive line.
32-yard fake punt for Grambling State. 1st and 10 at the 25. Mays fighting hard for 3 or 4 yards. And then just gets turned back. Get a look at Melvin Spears and Landers. Constant communication. Trying to coax the freshman quarterback along.
Well, records go out the window at the Bayou Classic, and the thing you have to do is whichever team settles into their game first has the advantage. And right now, you have to give that advantage to Grambling State. They've settled into a strong, solid run game. The big fake punt, which gave them field position, first team in scoring distance.
2nd down, Landers looking for Heyman. Can't find him. Excellent coverage on the play as well. Jarvis Bridges there, step for step with Heyman. Well, log on to NBCSports.com for coverage of the Bayou Classic and the latest college football news, scores, and stats. Plus, check out projections for all 28 postseason bowl games. It's all at NBCSports.com.
See, Grambling takes out their heavy lineup, goes with more fleet-footed guys, regular backs in the lineup, an extra receiver on 3rd and long.
See if they get it to Clyde Edwards, the true freshman from Houston. He wears number 5. Toss it instead, and Carter gets nothing. Great pursuit to the football. Perry Davis working down the line.
And what allowed him to do that was Gabe Wallace, number 23. You see Getridge, number 93, showing. See, Wallace even gets held, shows early, make sure that the pursuit is able to get there. Getridge, number 93 from the backside. Perry Davis, number 60 from inside at his tackle position. Nice job by the strong safety, Gabe Wallace.
All right, Morgan hooked a 39-yarder earlier from the right hash mark back in the first. Sends this one. It's got the distance, and it is good. So Brian Morgan able to connect and get Grambling State on the scoreboard with the field goal attempt, and it is good. The fake punt and run by Ab Quan sets it up for Brandon Landers and Grambling State. They have the lead. Our field goal gives Grambling State a 3-0 lead over Southern in the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic. The bands will perform at halftime. You'll see it here on NBC. Well, one of the many Bayou Classic traditions is the Friday night extravaganza here at the Superdome. It features round one of the Battle of the Bands and a fraternity sorority step competition. Here's a little taste of what the attendees got to see. And this look brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands. The Southern Band getting set.
I know my family would be very proud right there. My grandmother, past president of the AKAs, who won the sorority step show, and the Alphas winning it for the guys, the fraternity step show, both from Southern.
Kevin Moffitt on the kickoff return for Southern, fighting to get his way to the 18-yard line, and great pursuit to the football. So now Southern will try to respond. Penalties have been the problem. Grambling State with the lead. You're watching the Bayou Classic on NBC. Welcome back to the 31st annual State Farm Bayou Classic. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Grambling State in front, 3-0. Bob Papa, Don McPherson, Charles Davis, Darren Horton, and Lewis Johnson. Superdome in New Orleans. Southern with the football. 1st and 10 from their own 18. Ricks in a shotgun set. Checks off underneath. Got his tight end, Brian Washington, who makes his 7th catch of the season. Michael Daig on the tackle.
And Southern's going to have to open up this offense a little bit to loosen up this Grambling State defense. They've been crowding the line of scrimmage with 6 DBs and linebackers and keeping everyone inside about 10 yards. They're going to have to start throwing the ball down the field to loosen up the defense.
I think they just need some success to loosen themselves up a little bit. We talked about both teams playing today. Grambling loose, Southern a little bit tight. They need a play to relax them.
Ricks on the handoff to Holmes. Gets it across the 30. Lewis Carter came in low to help make the tackle. Well, today's Watch and Win is brought to you by Ebony Magazine and Southwest Airlines. Write down the code displayed on screen. Then log on to ebony.com for a chance to win a trip for 2 to the Caribbean or next year's State Farm Bayou Classic.
Now they've gone empty set and motioning back the tight end, Diedrich Schellmeyer.
Ricks gets 2, and that's it. Got to credit that defensive line of Grambling State. Boy, they've really done a great job of closing down running lanes.
Well, you talked about Schellmeyer coming into the backfield. It's just as if he were a tight end and shifted his position, and then they go with a power run. So it wasn't much of an adjustment for the Grambling State defense. They have to understand that the way that Southern runs their offense, no matter where that tight end goes or where those receivers go, they're just like a back. As long as they're in this box area right here, they're just like a back or a tight end.
2nd and 7. Ricks, Overstreet's got it. Across midfield, Mills on the tackle at the 44-yard line. Gain of 23 on the play.
And this, again, is exactly what they have to do with this offense, is start throwing the ball down the field. They have a ton of wide receivers and running backs. Again, in the way that they run their offense, good protection by this experienced offensive line. And you get a look as Thomas Ricks throws the ball. Look at that ball, never really goes above his head in his delivery. It's almost sidearm. He just drops it with a very low elbow. That makes him susceptible to getting the ball batted down between the tackles.
1st and 10. Little shovel pass on the inside to Gerard Landry. And Landry picks up a couple on the play. Joshua Cador on the tackle.
I like the looks of that last play by Southern. It's the old shovel pass, the old Utah pass, made famous by Lee Grosscup, but they have an option with it too. They have the pass that comes down inside, drop it inside, and they also have a back optioning if he wants to bring it outside.
Ricks on a 2nd and 6. Ricks backed up Quincy Richard last year in the Bayou Classic. Whoa. Sends one on the out, and Daig was thinking pick. You know, we talked about Ricks and we've heard about his maturity. He was never more mature, guys, than last year. As you get a look at Quincy Richard, who was the quarterback and the winning quarterback last year in this Bayou Classic.
When you look at Quincy Richard's numbers and you wonder, you know why Thomas Ricks wasn't playing, but Quincy Richard at the beginning of last season was unsure about his last year at Southern, was thinking about leaving, and who was the guy to convince him to stick around? His backup quarterback, Thomas Ricks.
And they were locked in a heated battle to be the starter. So a lot of people were saying, well, Thomas, why don't you just let him go? Right. You would have been the starter. But that tells you about Thomas Ricks and what he thinks about being a team player.
He's got Vernon over the middle, but he can't hook up with him. That's one Ricks would love to have back.
Caught Grambling, everyone up on the play. Don's mentioned this a number of times. Everyone crowding the box. No free safety on the play. Strictly man coverage. Vernon gets inside A.J. Bocard, number 45. Ricks drops it in there. It's an easy 6. Just a little bit too much on it, and he knows it.
So on that 3rd down miscue, Colby Miller to punt. Fair catch called for by Mills, and great punt coverage by Southern. Dio Bernard.
Great play, because if the punt returner does not make a play on the ball, you are eligible as the cover guy to go ahead and catch it. A lot of guys don't understand that. A lot of people would have let it hit, and if it hits, you never know where the ball is going to go. Dio Bernard understood. No play by the punt returner. I can go catch it and down it. Terrific play.
So it's a long field for Grambling State. They have a 3-0 lead. Good special teams play by the Southern Jaguars.
The key to this game is going to be taking advantage of these moments. Thomas Ricks has his man Vernon down the middle of the field. Great read by quarterback and receiver. They don't capitalize. You see Vernon make the move on Bocard. That should be 6. And Thomas Ricks knows it right away. He saw it again. Makes the read. He's got to complete the play. And we talked about Quincy Richard and how close these two young men have been over the past couple of years. Quincy Richard is living this game as well. Knows how important those opportunities are in the Bayou Classic.
And then Ricks and Vernon talking it over.
Wonder about James Vernon's knee also coming back after missing the last 2 games with a bad knee. I'm wondering if he's got his wheels fully oiled right now, because he didn't really get down the middle as well as we've seen him do that before.
Now a real pressure spot for Brandon Landers, the true freshman. He has the ball on his own 3-yard line. Your team leads 3-0. You've got to play smart here.
Stuff the run if you're Southern right here. Force him to throw the football.
Mays. Perry Davis hanging on, but Mays gets a couple to move it out across the 5 to about the 8.
That's really a good first down by Grambling against the front of Southern, chopping enough of a hole for Mays to pick up about 5 yards, making it 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and long.
Yeah, Charles, that's a great first down, because Southern knows what they're trying to do. They have Darrell, the offensive lineman, in the backfield still. They know what they're trying to do, and still got a good 5.5 yards on that first down.
That's Darrell right there, an offensive lineman playing fullback.
Mays the tailback in the 2nd down. He gets it again. Mays has a first down up to the 15-yard line. So a little breathing room for Grambling State.
Nice. Yeah, go ahead, Don.
A big first down for Grambling State, giving them some breathing room. You saw the big tackle Wilson coming through and leading through the hole. They had a big tackle Wilson coming through, and then Darrell coming through. So you have 2 big 300, 600 pounds coming through the hole.
One from fullback and one from the guard, pulling on the opposite side and getting off of the shadow of their goal line.
Mays out, Ab Quan in. Mays 46 yards rushing on 7 tries. Quan, he loses a yard or 2. Andre Payton stepped in there, number 99, and just filled that hole with his 260-pound frame.
It's him right in here, plugging up the hole, allowing all the rest of the pursuit to get there. Taurus Morgan, number 54, from the backside. aiding with the play. But a good job by the front, holding their position, and wham. Now Ruben Mays has gone to the fullback position, number 40.
Takes the inside handoff. That did not fool Southern. Again, the defensive line does a nice job there. Morgan and company close it down. It's tough to believe with 5 minutes to go in the first half. It's a 3-0 game in the Bayou Classic.
Well, you did say to us on a break you weren't sure that the Big Ten was playing down here today. You thought this was the SWAC. As always, things tend to heat up around here. Still early in the game for us.
Well, it's an unpredictable game, that's for certain, and no one would have predicted 3-0. Play clock dripping down. Landers on the 3rd and long. Has some time. Oh, the pass is dropped. He had an open receiver. Paul Hardiman.
I know this is a difficult catch for Hardiman, but you have to make these kind of catches for your young quarterback. But good recognition by Landers with the linebacker dropping. He's not pressured. Take your time with the throw. Hardiman's got to make that catch for your young quarterback.
Does he need to sit down there, Don, because he had his momentum continuing to go across the field? Does he find that hole, sit down, and present a better target for his quarterback?
Got to recognize zone coverage, and as soon as you pass that linebacker, you're exactly right. Settle down in the zone, give him a good target.
Gabe Wallace back deep. Manuel to attempt his first punt. The last one a fake. Averaging 34 yards a punt this season. Wallace from the 49. Wallace fumbled it. It's loose. It got pulled out. And now here's the arm wrestling contest.
How many times is the ball going back and forth right now?
Well, Grambling State acting as if they have the football.
So is the official.
And Ab Kwan comes out of the pile with it.
Ab Kwan first made his name on special teams, and he lives up to it again here.
Special teams has been a big factor in this ball game. Grambling State making the plays. They'll get another chance with a 3-0 lead. Matt Dewey got his hand in there and forced the fumble, and Ab Kwan was right on the spot for Grambling State. In this game, Gabe Wallace fumbling a punt for Southern. Matt Dewey forced it. Ab Kwan recovered it, and Grambling State with a 3-0 lead with the football.
Not bad for a team -9 on the year in the turnover margin.
Landers will run it. Morgan drops him after a gain of about a half yard. Well, what's the mood like on the sideline? Let's send it down to Darren Horton.
Well, guys, the Southern bench is somewhat deflated. They're focused. They're just looking at what's going on the field. They realize there's a lot at stake for this team in this game. On the other sideline, they're very excited. The Grambling Tigers are playing loose. They have nothing to lose. This is their championship. Back upstairs.
Brandon Landers, the freshman, facing a 2nd and 10. A Grambling State upset would thwart championship hopes for Southern, the defending conference champions. Kwan, who's had a big game, has a first down in Southern territory. Gain of 15 for Ab Kwan. And Ab Kwan has factored in the biggest plays of this game. A fake punt, 32 yards, set up the first score, and recovering that fumble by Wallace on the last punt.
And he's really come on the last couple of ball games. 112 yards, and then last week 155 yards and 3 touchdowns against Savannah State. They expected him to be their workhorse from the beginning of the year. Had a few problems along the way. He's back in form today.
Clyde Edwards has been quiet. They give it to Kwan instead. Kwan picks up 2 to the 44-yard line of Southern.
We talk about the mood on both benches and how Grambling is playing so much more loose. The past 2 years in this game, a couple things have been going on. Number one, Grambling was in line for the SWAC championship game to be played the following week in Birmingham. So they had something on the line in the ball game, playing a little bit more tight. This year, it's Southern that's on the line for the SWAC championship game.
If Southern wins, they clinch the SWAC Western Division title. Will play Alabama State in Birmingham in 2 weeks for the SWAC championship.
Landers is going to get tagged here for a delay of game.
Second time today, isn't it, that we've seen this from where he's gotten tagged with delay?
Delay of game. Number 7 on the offense. 5 yards, still second down.
And when we talked to the true freshman from Monroe, Louisiana, he told us yesterday he has the green light to change whatever play he wants, but sometimes maybe taking a little too much time.
Well, you know, the last time there was a delay of game, I put it on the bench because they have to get the play to him early enough, especially knowing that he's younger, get the play to him early enough so that he can survey the defense and make a decision about where he wants to go. Timeout
on the field. Grambling State nursing a 3-0 lead over Southern in the 31st Bayou Classic. Set, the Grambling State band led by Dr. Larry Pinnell. 245 members. They will be performing at halftime here at the Bayou Classic. The Southern band also getting ready to roll. Watching intently, their side down 3-0 here in the football game. 170 members. Dr. Isaac Greggs is their director. Be sure to tune in for the Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands halftime performance. Southwest Airlines is proud to be the title sponsor of the Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands.
The human jukebox from Southern University against the Grambling State Tigers marching band. Now, I've been here for 2 of these. This is going to be my 3rd. I think Southern's up 2-0 in the Battle of the Bands at halftime. That's just my own personal scorecard. That's just mine.
Then I'm going with Grambling for today. I'm going Grambling on the field and Grambling at halftime.
And we will report on it in the 3rd quarter.
2nd and 14 for Grambling State. Carter, the motion man. Landers trying to set up the screen. Quan can't hold it on the sideline.
Another flag down. Go figure.
It's shocking, right?
Illegal man downfield. Sometimes when you have the screen.
And that was good defense by Southern despite the drop by Ab Quan. It's like they got an ineligible man downfield. Someone leaked downfield because the play took a long time. But it was a zone blitz. Perry Davis, the defensive tackle, number 60, dropped back into the middle of the field in pass coverage. And I think that confused Grambling a little bit on offense.
You know, if I'm Melvin Spears, I like
an eligible receiver, downfield, number 67, on the offense, 5 yards, still 2nd down.
Freshman center.
If I'm Melvin Spears, I like what's going on in this ballgame right now. My team is still in it. My freshman quarterback is handling all those the zone blitz and all the different looks that Southern's giving him. He's not making a lot of mistakes. He's making a lot of mistakes, but it's not costing them right now. They're still up 3-0, and that's the key.
2nd and 19. You could have made the argument for declining that penalty and saving the down. Finally, Clyde Edwards, the freshman, with his first catch of the ball game, and that'll set up a 3rd and short, gain of 17 on the play. Gabe Wallace on the coverage.
And that's my point about the freshman quarterback. We know this kid has skills. It's just a matter of him settling down and looking at the field. And you see how he looked one way and came back? That's one of the things that Bruce Eugene has taught him. Look your safeties off. And you know what that does? That gives your receiver plenty of room to work with on the strong safety, Gabe Wallace.
And you just talked about receivers settling down, coming out of their breaks. Great example of Clyde Edwards getting to his break point, settling down and presenting a great target for the quarterback.
Edwards, a business and marketing major. 3rd down. Carter gets stopped short of the 1st down. Ahmad Trudeau, who has 8 interceptions, shows his tackling skills with Victor Phillips.
Great job. 3rd and short. They throw it parallel out to the sideline. Tremendous closing speed by the defensive backs. Trudeau, number 19, Phillips, number 34, making a 4th and short for Grambling. Is there any doubt they'll go for it?
Oh, no question about this one. The way they're playing in this ball game, they're taking chances, they're getting breaks.
And they've gone back to the heavy lineup. Doral, number 68, back at the fullback position, suggesting they want to play power football here.
4th and short. And another miscue. Andre Bennett, the sophomore right tackle.
I believe that was Governor, the tight end, number 88.
Yeah, Derek Governor. He seemed to be the guy who jumped, and boy, what a costly mistake that can be. Both sides pointing, of course.
Prior to the snap, false start. Number 88 on the offense. 5 yards, still 4th down.
That's the senior, Governor.
Here's Governor right here.
It looked like he was getting a little help from the tackle beside him, too, also leaning, but Governor was the one charging out of his stance. Cost them on a 4th and short. Now it makes it 4th and 6. Changes the play call for Grambling.
Grambling State has brought in Terrian Rogers. They'll have him in the backfield.
4 wide receivers and a great pass catcher in Landry Carter, number 21 in the backfield.
Landers skipped it, incomplete. Intended for Antonio Hargrove.
Yeah, the first problem you had there was distribution of your receivers. You had 2 receivers within 5 yards of each other. Here you got 2 guys that's way too close to one another to make this play, and Landers still had both of them, had an opportunity for both of them to get the ball up and get it out, and he has a shot, but you have 2 receivers way too close to one another. It confuses the quarterback. It makes him shorten his throw. You have to get that distribution.
Great observation. You know what the biggest problem was, in my opinion? They jumped offside on 4th and 1. They put themselves in the bad spot where they put themselves in a bad play.
Let's see what Ricks can do now. They have 1 timeout remaining. Works it underneath. Nice pickup on 1st down.
Clock should stop so they can set the chains because it's a 1st down. That clock ticked off about 3 extra seconds there. You know, if you're Southern, you might want to ask about that. When that play is down, you've got to reset the chains after a 1st down.
And this is usually when a team will loosen up. In the 2-minute drill, they're on the field, the adrenaline gets going, they loosen up from being so tight the entire half.
Ricks trying to run the go route down the sideline of Vernon.
Actually an out and up on that one. Good play by Bakari Geis, number 6. Playing the corner, did not bite on the out route, stayed deep. When he went upfield, was able to make the play on defense.
Yeah, and Ricks is going to look at this game on film. He's going to see the earlier throw to Vernon. He's also going to see that play because he had Overstreet coming across the middle that would have given him a 1st down and would have given him some better field position. He went for the home run.
I think they need to get to about the 25-yard line to have a realistic shot at a field goal from what we've seen out of the kicker, Ackley.
Blitz is on, and great pursuit by Bakari Geis, who was not fooled.
And clock stops at 4 seconds.
Thomas Ricks looking very frustrated with play selection and his options in the pass game in the last 2 plays, knowing that he's not making the right decisions, knowing that he may not be getting the right play calls. Whatever the case, he's getting frustrated, and this is exactly the position that Grambling State wanted to be in, keeping Southern from running their machine.
Melvin Spears' squad with a 3-0 lead with 4 seconds to go here in the 1st half. Well, be sure to tune in for the Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands halftime performance. Southwest Airlines is proud to be the title sponsor of the Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands. Plus, Lewis Johnson will be in our studio with all the latest news, scores, and highlights from college football. That's all coming up at halftime.
Well, field goal obviously is not an option here, guys. Now I think it's just simply a Hail Mary at this point. Grambling's got to get back with defensive backs and go up and attack the football. You can't lay back and let it get tipped around. You've got to go up and make a play. The only shot they have is Hail Mary.
3rd and 11. Southern has outscored their opponents 146-44 in the last 4 games, but today stymied as far as their offense is concerned. Ricks has a receiver downfield. It's caught for a touchdown. Emil Bryant on the deep post on the final play of the 1st half. The junior from New Orleans, right down the middle of the field.
That wasn't even a Hail Mary. What you have is Dagger. He's going to come on the blitz, and that takes the man out of the middle of the field as Michael Day goes for the blitz. It's not even a Hail Mary pass. There's no defense back. It's 4 white shirts back there.
I think you have to seriously question blitzing in that situation.
Ackley has missed the extra point, though. He shoots it wide right.
It's the only good thing that happened to Grambling in that last sequence.
It took us 30 full minutes of football for the first touchdown. Emil Bryant just ran the post and took it in. Looked like the knee might have hit, but it's ruled a touchdown.
And Charles, you talked about it. There's Michael Day coming in on the blitz. Excuse me.
That was 59 on that play. That was the linebacker for Grambling getting inside, Chris Anthony. But they also had Day blitzing number 26, the strong safety. They had two guys going. As Don mentioned, no one back in the middle. So it doesn't become a Hail Mary. It becomes a deep post.
Oh, it was.
And he catches it amidst Grambling defenders. Momentum shifts from Grambling playing a great first half to Southern going in ahead even after the missed extra point.
No replay in the college game. Looked like Emil Bryant's knee touched inside the one, but it's ruled a touchdown.
No do-overs here for this one. This is not the Big Ten. It's not reviewable.
That could be what Melvin Spears is asking about. But if you saw where those four defenders came from, they all came from the outside. They were coming from the outside in. They had no one in the deep middle.
Major surprise.
And Pete Richardson, his team played probably as poorly as they've played in any half this year, but they go into the locker room with a 6-3 lead.
That's a thank you present that Pete Richardson's got to say to Grambling for blitzing on that play and giving them that opportunity.
49-yard touchdown pass. T.R. Ricks. A lot of defense in this first half. Southern in front of Grambling State. 6-3 at the intermission. But Emil Bryant reels in the touchdown pass at the end of the half. Stay tuned for Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands right after these messages from your local NBC station.
Dr. Larry Pinnell is the head of Grambling State University's marching band department. Okay, the Grambling State Tigers have made their statement, and when we return, we'll hear from the Southern University Band. But first, we bring you the State Farm Coach of Distinction Award.
Eddie Robinson, in his legendary career, took him from the Dust Bowl fields of Grambling, Louisiana, to immortality. Even as one of the most victorious coaches in college football history, he knows that success is not just measured on the scoreboard. So an award in Eddie Robinson's name belongs to a coach who not only cares about the game and his players, but most importantly, his community. It belongs to a coach who can tie his team's record for most victories in a season and take them to their first outright conference championship in 46 years, all in his first season as their head coach. And it belongs to a coach who makes time for such organizations as the National Kidney Foundation, the Boy Scouts of America, and the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. It gives me great honor to present this year's State Farm Eddie Robinson Coach of Distinction Award to the University of Utah's Urban Meyer. State Farm, its agents and employees are proud to honor you, Urban, with this trophy and a donation of $25,000 in your name to the university's General Scholarship Fund. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you to State Farm. Having an award in the name of Coach Robinson means a great deal because he was not only a great football coach, he was a great man who shaped the lives of a bunch of young men that always go back and think about their time with Coach Rob. Thanks again.
Music Department.
trailblazing 360 steps per minute. One of the many reasons why when you say Southern University Marching Band, it means showtime. It is there on the chest that lets you know that they're the best. The Southern University Marching Band is simply America's finest. So sit back, relax, for you're about to experience the most exciting time of your life. As the stimulating, the dazzling, the house rocker.
Mic check.
All houses as the crowd pleaser takes you on a ride. The man with
know how we blow, and you can tell by the way we do our show. 1 to the 2, 2 to the 3, S to the U, B-A-N-D. Now watch us lean back and make a better call. Now ask Judy, what's the joggers on? Oh!
It's hard to pick a winner. The Human Jukebox of Southern University, brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the Southwest Airlines Battle of the Bands. We'll send it back to New Orleans for the second half right after these messages from your local stations.
The State Farm Bayou Classic, the 31st edition from the Superdome in New Orleans. At the half, Southern with a 6-3 lead over Grambling State. Bob Papa, Don McPherson, and Charles Davis. Welcome back to the Bayou. And well, you take a look at the end of the first half. Southern doing nothing offensively, but they're able to get on the board as we take a look at the stats from the first half of play. And they're brought to you by State Farm. And just a very interesting scenario with the way this whole first half played out. Really, Southern does nothing offensively. They get 48 yards on the last play of the half.
And that was the play of the half for Southern because, as you mentioned, Grambling had them stymied for most of the first half on defense, but the last play of the half changed the whole complexion of this game. Grambling should have gone in ahead 3-0. Instead, they're down 6-3 because of this play. A blitz and no free safety back on the last play of the half. A Hail Mary to Emil Bryant, who caught the game winner against Alabama State earlier this year. But look, it shouldn't have counted. His knee's down short of the goal line, tumbles into the end zone. Southern, the beneficiaries of two big plays. One from Grambling, one from the officials.
All right, Don, let's talk about Grambling State. And they have a true freshman quarterback in Brandon Landers. And it's kind of an up and down first half for him.
It was, but it was, I think, a positive first half for Brandon Landers. The key for him was to protect him, knowing that he's coming into this Bayou Classic. A lot of emotion. Settle him down and give him some help. He came into the ball game right away. Southern did what they wanted to do. They got in his face, and then his team didn't really help him out with drop passes. But then he started to settle in a little bit, and good things started to happen to him. Lucky break right here with the tip pass. And then, again, he started to settle down, started to complete some passes, and move the ball down the football field. I think he's had a positive first half, not making many mistakes, and keeping his team in position to win.
Grambling State, as you get a look at Landers' numbers, 7 of 11 for 53 yards, and the Tigers will get the ball to start this second half. Short kick taken by one of the up men. And Grambling State will have good field position from their own 33-yard line as we check in with Darren Horton.
Well, I was in the Grambling locker room at halftime, and Coach Melvin Spears was very, very simplistic with his team. He says, listen, shake this thing off. This is a war. This is exactly what we wanted. And then he went on to reiterate the 3 points that he told his team about before the game. Play with enthusiasm, play with discipline, and play now for 30 minutes. Pete Richardson basically said, look, we haven't won anything yet. We've got to finish the job. Back upstairs.
All right, Darren, as you get a look at Coach Melvin Spears of Grambling State, his offense on the football field. And we'll get back to that end of the half play in just a second as the true freshman Landers brings his team to the line. Mays, the lone setback. Motion man is Gray. They give for Mays, and he picks up a couple before he gets upended on the play. And Darius Coleman on the tackle. Guys, his team played very well. They kept it close. They did all the things. They had a lead. You can almost question the end of the first half on the coaching staff and the blitz that came into play.
You definitely, you don't take Michael Dake, your best defensive back back there, and go take him on a blitz and give up the middle of the football field, and that's exactly what they did to that deep pass.
And Emil Bryant hauled it in for the score and the lead. Extra point was missed. Gray with room. Gray in Southern territory. Moffitt on the tackle. at about the 38-yard line. A 30-yard run for Keithwan Gray. He's a sophomore from Dallas, his longest run of the year.
And he can fly. Great kick returner. 4.35 speed in the 40, 10.41 speed in the 100 meters. Look at Darrell Rogers, number 76, on the lead for Gray. And then he breaks a couple of tackles, gets a nice block on the backside. That was a great job by Grambling, giving him plenty of space and room to run.
Mays the setback again. Mays takes the handoff. Mays with room inside the 20 and knocked down at the 19-yard line. So Reuben Mays with a 17-yard carry.
Bob, whatever was said at halftime, Grambling State came out in the second half and decided we can run the football. They are not disguising anything. They have all 10 guys inside the box right there for Grambling State, and they're just running the football. It's just basic zone blocking, and Mays is picking his way through the secondary.
Second straight play with good blocks from number 87, Matt Dewey, the tight end.
No question about what they're doing right here when all the men are in the box.
1st and 10, Grambling State. This time Mays gets stood up by Taris Morgan and dropped for no gain on the play. Morgan hunkers down, the senior from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
It has to be a little frustrating for Pete Richardson, the head coach of Southern, is that they got a gift at the end of the first half, but the defense has not come out with the fire necessary in the second half to stuff Grambling and get the ball right back for their offense.
And if I'm Southern's defense right now, I take this as an insult. They're saying we're going to run the ball, no question about it.
Again, Gray hit hard at the 18-yard line, a gain of only a couple.
Much better job on the defensive line. That's DeLorean Rushing, number 61, back from a high ankle sprain. Missed the last 4 or 5 ball games. Getting extensive action here in the Bayou Classic. Held his position, jammed up the play.
You know, Lewis Johnson told us earlier he spoke with Coach Robinson earlier today, and he's got to like this formation, huh?
the old wing tee made famous by Grambling and Eddie Robinson.
3rd and 8. Going to keep it on the ground. Carter stood up at the 11-yard line. Victor Phillips there to make the play along with Taris Morgan.
And I don't know if Coach Robinson knows this or not. He probably does because he stays abreast of everything. But they do call this formation Robinson in honor of him.
Edgar Algeray also there to make the play.
Play clock now ticking down, Don. It's at 19, and they're not even in the huddle yet.
And once again, you go back to what happened on the sideline. The kicker started to come out for the field goal attempt. Now with 10 seconds left, they get to the line of scrimmage, have to burn a timeout.
Now Southern calls the timeout on 4th and less than 1. So Melvin Spears and his squad facing a big 4th and less than 1 just outside the Southern 10 on the opening drive of this 3rd quarter. All on the ground. Just churning up the yardage, trying to regain the lead. It's the Bayou Classic on NBC. State Farm Bayou Classic is brought to you by Ford, built for the road ahead. By the makers of St. Joseph Aspirin, America's original for the heart. And by State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Visit a local agent today. 6 plays, 57 yards, all on the ground for Grambling State. They trail Southern. 6'3" Melvin Spears, a great historian of Grambling football. He's taken one out of Coach Robinson's playbook. 4th and inches, just outside the 10.
Marches near back. Terrion Rogers, 27, in case they don't sneak it.
They give it off for Quan. He's got a first down and more to the 5. Touchdown at Quan. And Grambling State regains the lead. Standing up. Quan's 8th rushing touchdown of the year.
Right there, Terrion Rogers, the key block. You see that? Also gets a block from Derek Governor, number 88, on the tight end. At the tight end position, chops the hole on the right side of the line for Southern. I was calling for them to fake it inside and maybe come out with a run-pass option. Before we came on, my partner said, no, you got to run it inside. Now you have to run it in, and they did it.
And Brian Morgan hits the extra point. And Grambling State up 10-6 on the 11-yard touchdown run. Don, they win at the point of attack.
Exactly right. And everyone expected them to go sneak. You see the great block there by Governor, the tight end, on Phillips. And that opened up the hole for Ab Quan to just about walk into the end zone.
Melvin Spears enjoys the 11-yard run and the lead over Southern. Grambling's Ab Quan, a computer information major, 20 years of age, with the go-ahead touchdown for Grambling State, an 11-yard run, 7 plays, 68 yards, 3:24 on the clock. Just power football from the wing team.
And we talked about protecting the young quarterback, Brandon Landers. When you have a big guy, number 76, Darren Rogers, in front of you, opening up holes, you can see the kind of running that these running backs have had to keep the ball on the ground. Look at Brandon, look at Rogers just coming right down the field. Opening up the game, protecting your young quarterback, putting the ball in the end zone, the entire drive on the ground. Grambling State can win this game if they continue to have success on the ground like that.
That opening drive reminiscent of Grambling's game against Arkansas Pine Bluff, where they opened the game with 19 consecutive running plays. They went away from it later, but today they keep coming back to the run.
Short kick from the 6. Moffitt. He's taken one this year and dragged down from behind. At the last second, a 32-yard return. And possibly a touchdown-saving tackle there by Zaire Wilborn.
Well, no gold star for the Southern defense to start the second half. They let the momentum that they gained on the touchdown to start at the end of the first half get away from them. But maybe the kick return team can ignite them. Watch the blocking that they get. You see Grambling going downfield, looking, and then bam, great block from the backside by Southern.
And if Wilborn doesn't make the tackle, it's only the kicker left. Ricks. Bryant picks up 11 to midfield. Chris Anthony on the tackle. Bryant had the 48-yard touchdown catch at the end of the half to give Southern the lead.
Remember, it's only a 4-point lead for Grambling.
4 points because of a missed extra point.
Because of a missed extra point, which is a great observation, Bob, because of the kicking game. But since it's only a 4-point lead, no time for panic for Southern. But I think this is a very important drive for them to establish some continuity.
Ricks. You're going to run it this time to Devin Herbert, a redshirt freshman. Jimmy Zachary on the tackle, loss of a half-yard.
You know, Charles, you bring up a real good point about this drive. You always want to start off, especially as an offensive unit that struggled in the first half, used to having more success. You want to come out and say 0-0 at halftime. We're going to make some changes, as you saw Grambling did. They made some changes, went right down the field. Southern has to respond. If they don't, they come to the sideline thinking, oh no, we don't have it today. We're just never going to get it together.
It's where the maturity of Thomas Ricks, T.R. Ricks, comes into play as the quarterback of Southern.
Bryant in motion on the second and long. Little screen. Herbert, great pursuit, though, by the defense of Kenneth Petway and Grambling State. Petway just running down the line.
And a great play by Michael Daig, number 26, coming up from the secondary. Petway read the play and swung out. Watch Petway, number 55. He'll swing. But look at Daig right there, number 26. See how he eludes the block from number 79, Thomas Salisbury, and gets inside to make the play.
And a team that had so many injuries and so much transition, those two guys right there are the leadership of this team, and they're stepping up big in the Bayou.
Ricks for Vernon, got him this time, but he dropped it. Did not have it. There's a flag on the play. Ricks to Vernon. Geis on the coverage.
And Daig and Petway both seem to think this is going to go against Southern.
The play looked somewhat familiar, didn't it, from the first half? A missed opportunity for Southern then.
Holding. Before on the offense, downfield. That penalty is refused. 4th down.
So they called Vernon for holding, running his route.
Terrific defensive stand for Grambling to start the second half. They took it downfield and scored. And right there's Vernon going downfield, number 4.
I don't know where the hold was.
Not sure where the hold was on Vernon unless they called it from him getting off of the jam at the line of scrimmage. But I've got to admit, I've never seen a receiver called for holding getting off of a jam on the line of scrimmage.
Colby Miller to punt. Not a deep kick, but he angles it. Mills lets it roll past him. Wow. And look at that. You couldn't have placed it any better.
That's why as a punt returner, you go catch the punch you can catch to save the hidden yardage that doesn't show up in stats. He gave up how many extra yards, Bob?
A 48-yard punt. It probably had about 20 in roll. But there's a penalty on the play.
And a hold against Grambling.
And will it be a post-possession hold or?
Hubert Owens has been busy today.
Yes.
In the first half, there were 13 combined accepted penalties.
Holding. Number 37 on the defense. Post-scrimmage kick enforcement. Half the distance from the end of the kick. First down.
So that punt by Colby Miller got even better.
Goes to the 1.5.
Melvin Spears' offense pinned deep. They went with the wing T power running game on their last drive, and it paid off in a touchdown. They'll have 98 yards to go. The offense back on the field. It's been the running game of Grambling State. That's why they have the lead. Melvin Spears and Grambling State with a 10-6 lead over Southern in the 31st Bayou Classic. Our Ford Coaches Moment Spotlight. Grambling interim head coach Melvin Spears. His season 5-5 record. He spent the previous 6 years as an assistant head coach and offensive coordinator at Grambling State. He was named the 2002 Division I AA Offensive Coordinator of the Year. During his playing days, he was a standout quarterback and wide receiver at Alcorn State. This Coach's Moment has been brought to you by Ford, proud sponsor of the State Farm Bayou Classic. Still the interim head coach at Grambling State.
The president has made it clear that they're going to open the job up for a national search at the end, and Coach Spears can apply if he so desires. But if he wins this game today, there may be a groundswell for him to get the job right now.
Mays, the fullback, takes the handoff off the right side, gets a yard, and that's it. Edgar Algeray made the tackle and won a safety, but his forward progress was stopped at about the 2.
Nothing like being on a 4-month job interview.
Constantly. Every play, every snap, everything you do is scrutinized.
And if you look at the whole year, what's happened at Grambling, all the things that he's had to deal with, the hiring of the coach, the firing of the coach, Doug Williams leaving and going to Tampa Bay, the athletic director gets fired. Then Spears' academic background is in question, then cleared, then the Bruce Eugene injury. He has had to deal with so much, not to mention that fact that he's following 2 legends in Doug Williams and Eddie Robinson.
Yeah, tough to do that back-to-back.
Great power running up the middle, that time by Terrion Rogers. Gets it across the 10, sets up a manageable 3rd and short. Well, for more on Coach Spears, let's send it down to field side and Darren.
Well, Bob, Coach Robinson may be having an impact in this game. We told you about the meeting between Melvin Spears and Coach Robinson on Tuesday. Well, Coach Spears brought his playbook, Eddie Robinson's old playbook, to the coach, and he started explaining some of the old running plays that Grambling traditionally runs. They are running some of those very plays today in the Bayou Classic. Let's go back upstairs.
And although he played at Alcorn State, Melvin Spears, a lifelong Grambling State fan. First down, Rogers, as he gets it across the 15 with some power running on the right side.
Another good job by the Grambling offensive line and fullback, creating enough of a hole for the running back to get through, and consistently Grambling gaining yardage against a stacked front of Southern. And when you talk about Melvin Spears, you just mentioned it, Bob. He's a lifelong Grambling fan, grew up a huge fan of them, wanted to go to Grambling, went to Alcorn because he had 2 cousins who played quarterback who went to Grambling ahead of him. Their names Doug and Mike Williams. That made it difficult to go there. He went to Alcorn, so he had a chance to play.
You take a look at the history of Grambling State, and only 3 coaches over the last 66 years.
Yeah, counting Melvin Spears this year as an interim.
Doug Williams now in the front office with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 52-18. His record as head coach. Well, it has been a tumultuous season for Grambling football. In February, a frustrated Doug Williams resigned as head coach, departed for the Tampa Bay Bucs front office. Melvin Spears named interim head coach, but his academic credentials were questioned. But days later, he was cleared of that. In the season opener, Walter Payton Award candidate Bruce Eugene injured and lost for the season. But despite all these setbacks, the very young Grambling State Tigers team has been able to claw its way to a 5-5 mark. And they've done it with tenacious defense, nursing a young quarterback. And Coach Spears says, we can get it done today. Again, the running game. Taking some air out of the clock is Rogers, wrapped up by Andre Patton.
And I think that Grambling State has done it with heart. When we looked at the warm-up, when we looked at this game before, when both teams were warming up, Grambling State they were hyped. They were jumping up and down. They were getting each other hyped for this game. And Southern was running plays. They were very methodical, very business-like running plays. And so far, we always know the Bayou Classic's all about emotion. And Grambling State has the emotion on their side.
Yeah, they've seized it and been able to maintain it despite what happened at the end of the first half when they could have been deflated.
Gray. Oh, great play by Gabe Wallace, the safety, for a loss of a couple back to the 10.
Nothing like a graduate student who came from playing in the Southeastern Conference at Mississippi State to add to your secondary as a fifth-year senior. And Gabe Wallace showing his bona fides on that play.
You know, you mentioned the emotion early shown by Grambling State in the pregame warm-ups, but now it's settled down to almost a business-like approach. Let's just grind it out, down in and down out.
And that's exactly the point that I was making earlier about getting into their rhythm, running their offense on their terms, and they're doing that. They got a first down, got their feet out of the end zone, chewing up some clock.
3rd and long, draw play. Rogers gets it up to the 17, well short of a first down. Grambling State in the second half, 13 rushes, no passes.
I think that was a good call there by Melvin Spears and his offensive staff. Run the draw, punt the ball away, let your defense go to work again, because you don't want to make a big mistake in that situation and give Southern another cheap one.
And that's exactly the point I was making about Brandon Landers and why I thought his first half was a successful one. No mistakes, keep your team in position to win.
Exactly.
Gabe Wallace has fumbled a punt return. Ab Kwan is the up man. Remember, on the fake, he ran 32 yards.
Great
Morgan.
Return ball.
Yeah, middle of the field. Wallace from midfield. Looking for blockers on the edge. And gets upended. Mike Daig again on the tackle. Even on special teams, he's everywhere for Grambling State. But great field position on the 9-yard return. Late stages of the 3rd. Grambling State nursing a 10-6 lead in the 31st Bayou Classic on NBC. Grambling State with a 10-6 lead in the 3rd quarter in the Bayou Classic. Last year's Bayou Classic was an offensive slugfest. Grambling jumped out to an early 17-7 lead on Bruce Eugene's touchdown pass. But Southern's quarterback Quincy Richard responded by passing for 522 yards and 5 touchdowns. In the waning moments, Grambling's last drive ended. Bruce Eugene would get intercepted on a 4th and long, and Southern would win again, 44-41. The final score. A distraught Bruce Eugene, not playing this year because of a knee injury suffered in week 1. An offensive explosion last year. This year, defense. 1,136 yards, 4 lead changes, only 3 punts. You get a look at Bruce Eugene. He was out there for pregame warm-up, suffered a knee injury, had knee surgery after week 1. And Quincy Richard, remember, we talked about the fact he nearly walked away last year, and T.R. Ricks talked him back into it. He is now in law school at Southern.
You know, when you talk to Southern players and guys like Quincy Richard, you know why Pete Richardson is so well respected. So many of these guys are in law school or continuing their studies beyond their football years.
Yeah, and part of the reason he was thinking about walking away was his class load at the time. Right. In addition to the football, he was exhausted.
Ricks is going to run it. Picks up about 6. Best field position all day for Southern.
And that's something we have not seen as much as I think we anticipated. The quarterback run game, the zone run, the zone counter. Maybe a little more option out of Thomas Ricks, taking it outside when necessary. Sometimes just a simple quarterback sweep. We may see a little more of that here in the second half, putting the ball in Ricks's hands and letting him make things happen.
Well, that defensive front of Grambling State has been stout today. 2nd and 4. Ricks, Vernon, first down, tackled at the 28-yard line. Lewis Carter on the tackle. A.J. Bocard there as well.
And Charles, you bring up a good point. I feel like watching Southern that they have not established any kind of rhythm, any kind of continuity, anything to build on. It feels like they're still trying to figure out what Grambling is going to do to them defensively so they can begin to exploit things. I think they need to get into their own rhythm, short passing game, and again, just as you mentioned, that run game with Thomas featuring Thomas Ricks to get things going again.
Ricks, shovel pass, Bryant. He has the touchdown in the ball game for Southern on the 48-yard touchdown pass on the last play of the first half. Well, today's Watch and Win is brought to you by Ebony Magazine and Southwest Airlines. Write down the code displayed on screen, then log on to ebony.com for a chance to win a trip for two to the Caribbean or to next year's State Farm Bayou Classic. Second down for Southern in Grambling State territory. Ricks fakes the pitch, gets inside the 15, has a first down.
And this is what I'm talking about, going with the load option here, getting him on the perimeter. He's going to have a man in front of him. There's his guard, his pulling guard in front of him.
Yes, number 66, Lance Gerard. And this time we finally saw the quarterback option, something we thought we would see. You know, no sooner than we mention it, is David Oliver channeling our booth, the offensive coordinator? He shouldn't do it too often because we'll just get him messed up.
That's right, but he better get his quarterback back in the ball game. There's no better way to get a guy engaged and get him thinking and get him juiced up than put the ball in his hands.
Landry, the motion man on a 1st and 10. Ricks to the end zone, knocked away from Overstreet. Good pursuit to the football by Greg Fassett, the sophomore from New Orleans, Kennedy High School.
That was just great coverage by Fassett.
Just ran inside his hip. See 29 locked in at his helmet, stays on the hip, just rides him across the middle, and is able to turn his head and knock the ball away. Good coverage by Greg Fassett. Not bad for an academic all-district selection. Second team, Greg Fassett this year.
2nd and 10 for Southern. Ricks has a seam and grabbed by Dimitri Carr, who was holding on for dear life.
I've got to ask this question, Don, because you ran the option in college also, one of the better quarterbacks to ever play. Option pass. You just mentioned getting your quarterback involved by doing it. What exactly does that do for a quarterback when you get him involved in the run game?
It makes you so much more aware of what's going on the field. It makes you more aware of what's going on in the secondary because you spend time there. You know where guys are coming from. You know how aggressive they're playing. And you also begin to loosen up and spread out that front so they can't bring you pressure.
Big 3rd and 2. Ricks under pressure. And a flag on the play as the ball was thrown into the end zone and knocked away from the tight end, Washington. Well, they sent the blitz with Chris Anthony. Ricks just had to unload it.
But I think that was a design play. Yes. You know what I think it was? I think he was faking like he was going to run it and hoping they would come up and let Washington, the tight end, sneak behind. Dimitri Carr, number 54, had the coverage, get called for the hold.
Pass interference, number 4, on the defense, in the end zone. The ball will be placed on the 2-yard line. First out.
Well, Jermaine Mills.
I think they mean 54, though, because watch, right there, that's Dimitri Carr. Watch as he comes up, and you see that's the interference. They just missed the 5 on his jersey. That's why a lot of coaches said, we don't want to hear numbers. You're getting them wrong all the time.
That's right.
1st and goal for Southern, trying to regain the lead late in the 3rd. They're going to toss it off left, diving for the pylon, and a touchdown. Devin Herbert, the redshirt freshman from Edgar, Louisiana, and Southern regains the lead.
Watch the lead block coming at you, number 32 right there, Mark Frederick. See him chopping down Anthony, Chris Anthony, number 59, the linebacker for Grambling, and Herbert dives for the pylon, gets inside, and Southern goes back in the lead.
Herbert's 2nd touchdown of the season. Ackley for the extra point. And this time he puts it through. He missed an extra point at the end of the half. And with that said, Southern has moved out to the lead.
Yeah, and Southern had to respond in light fashion to Grambling. Run the football, get your quarterback more involved, get people on the perimeter and blocking. Charles, you talked about the blocking downfield. Once those guys get used to that, then they get used to a little bit more smash mouth football.
It looked like James Vernon, number 4, got away with a little bit of a hold on the corner, but no matter. Southern goes back in front. Physical versus physical in the last 2 drives we've seen from Grambling and Southern.
Devin Herbert with the 2-yard touchdown run. And the Southern University Jaguars with the lead, 13-10, with 2:59 to go in the 3rd quarter. An impressive drive by the Jaguars. They used the running game to get it done. Well, Oklahoma's Adrian Peterson has been all over the news this year, but before the SI Cover Boys suited up with the Sooners, he took the field in last year's U.S. Army All-American Bowl. Who will be this year's breakout star? Tune in and find out at the U.S. All-American Army Bowl, Saturday, January the 15th, only on NBC.
No talent running around that field, was there? Bob, you were there. You got to see it. So many guys who played in that game last year already having an impact on the college game as true freshmen.
How about Teddy Chin Jr. from Ohio State?
Human highlight film. He's this year's answer to Dante Hall of the Kansas City Chiefs, isn't he? Every time he touches it, you think he's going to score.
Short kickoff, and Grambling State will start 1st and 10 at their own 28-yard line.
And it is time now for Cliff Lewis's new Dog Day defense to rise up.
You've been talking Dog Day
I've been
all
talking
day.
all the time. It's time for the barking to begin. And you know, Cliff Lewis is saying it's time for you guys to make a stand. Because every time they've had Grambling in a tough spot, the offensive Grambling has found a way out of it today. If Southern wants to make a move, this is the series.
Well, if Grambling comes out with 3 tight ends as they have in the past 2 drives, if they come out, it's again a challenge to Southern saying, we're going to run the football, stop us.
And it looks like the wing T formation again. Kentwan Gray, number 31, as a wing back right there. And also on the other side, Henry Tolbert, number 3, playing the other wing back.
Which is not the same formation.
And Grambling State has to call a timeout with 2:56 to go.
And that's not
in the
good.
3rd.
That's not good because you're coming from the sideline after a change of possession.
Exactly.
That, you know, you would think that would already be taken care of. We know what we're going to call. Let's go run the play.
And they had plenty of time during that nice long Southern drive to determine what we're going to do if they score. If we hold them, we know we're going to be on this side of the field. What do we do? What do we want to come out with?
It's a wasted timeout.
Pete Richardson huddled with his defense. Coach Richardson, in his 12th year, 105 career victories, 10-1 against Grambling State. And a victory today sends him to the SWAC championship. They're the defending conference champions. Well, Southern head coach Pete Richardson has had an accomplished coaching career at Southern. As I mentioned, 105 wins, 5 SWAC championships, and 4 Black College national titles, 10-1 in the Bayou Classic.
A man with that resume, would you wonder why he wouldn't have a new contract? I would.
Gray in motion. Landers to throw. Landers looking deep into double coverage. Knocked away from Heyman. Phillips was back there.
I like the
along
call.
with Trudeau.
I like the call. Stretch the defense out. Start to open up the ball game. Don't go back into the cocoon. Good protection up front. Nice look by the young quarterback stepping up.
Had enough room where they were able to call this play. They weren't backed up on their own goal line in that shadow. And the only reason it was broken up was Trudeau, number 19, fell back from his defensive corner position with the safety over the top to make the play.
That was the first pass of the half for Grambling State. Gray gets a block on the edge. Gray up to the 37-yard line. So he picks up about 7 on the play. Andre Patton on the tackle. Gray has given Grambling State a nice lift here in the second half as part of their running back rotation.
Normally just a kick returner. He missed 4 games earlier this year due to NCAA regulations. Has asthma, and sometimes the weather can really affect, you know, his conditioning and changes things. But in here in the dome, climate controlled. Life is good for him.
72 and clear consistently.
Consistently. Big third down.
3rd and 2. Gray, the motion man. Mays again off that right side. Bounces off a tackle and has the first down. He banked off Edgar Algeray and fought for the first down.
Great second effort by Ruben Mays. And again, you have to go to the emotion. You have to go to the fact that this is a 5-5 team that's been through a lot, who still believes that they can win this ball game. And you see it in the individual plays. When you see this, he stopped right there. Should be a tackle by Algeray. And then the spin and the first down. Grambling State continues to drive.
They try the end around this time with Colbert. And Gettridge was there to shut that down for a loss of a couple. You mentioned Ruben Mays. It was a guy that played for the New Orleans Saints, Ruben Mays. He's not related to that rule.
Not the same guy. Ruben Mays from Washington State, where at one point he held the NCAA record for rushing yards in a game with 357. But this guy's a Tennessee transfer who's had a great day in the Bayou Classic. Look at the three guys combining for mega yardage for Grambling State. And now Kentwan Gray has come into the game to give them a 4th running back.
2nd and 15. Again, they work out of that wing set. Mays hit by Gettridge from behind. Gets a couple up to the 39-yard line. Call it 2 on the play.
Consistency. It's a word coaches use all the time. Maybe it's just me. I need you guys to help me out here. But have you felt Southern has made a play on defense and then they come back and Grambling gains big yardage later? Again, another opportunity, 3rd and long for Southern's defense.
They have to step up here. And once again, I agree with the consistency. I think where the consistency has been is on the Grambling side of the ball. They've been very consistent in how they're running their offense.
Looks like zone coverage from Southern.
3rd and 12. Landers has the other true freshman, Clyde Edwards, for the first down at the 42-yard line of Southern.
Begins with the offensive line, the run game, all that they've done in the second half, and then the protection. Watch these 4 guys right here. What great slide protection. Just take a man on a man, push him to the right. It gives your quarterback plenty of time, and you have to look at all the time he has to sit there. I don't care if he's a true freshman or not. You give someone that kind of time, they're going to find the receiver down the field and deliver the football.
Did he step into that one pretty well?
He stepped into it very well. He has a strong arm. And again, with this young man, the thing is that they talk about is his poise, his strength, and his athleticism. You give him the time that he's had in the pocket this game, and he'll pick you apart.
True freshman to true freshman, Clyde Edwards with the big 19-yard catch, and that is the end of the 3rd quarter with the score. Southern 13, Grambling State 10. Grambling State, though, on a drive in the 31st Bayou Classic. Will return to the State Farm Bayou Classic after these messages from your local NBC station. Amazing that we've gone backward in the span of a year. We're supposed to be going forward. For more on this, let's send it down to the field and Darren Horton.
Well, Bob, I had an opportunity to talk with Floyd Keith, who is the executive director of the Black Coaches Association. I asked him what kind of impact is this report having on the hiring of black coaches in Division 1A and 1AA. He said, well, it's not having a tangible effect as of yet. However, it is affecting the process. Minorities are now being included on the committees that the universities have when they put together a search committee to get head coaches. So it is having an effect with the process. He says ultimately, in the long run, it's going to affect the recruits when they get a chance to look at these reports and decide whether or not they want to go to a school that has an F on their report. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, Darren, we'll touch upon this some more after the next play as Grambling State trailing 13-10 as we start the 4th. In Southern Territory, 1st and 10. Quan picks up about 4 to about the 38-yard line. Don McPherson, Charles Davis, your thoughts on the report?
Well, I think one of the things that people need to understand is that life for African-American student athletes on predominantly white campuses is very different than it is for white students on those campuses. Similarly, for coaches, it's also very true. You don't need a search committee to go out and find the black coaches. You know where they are. They are your student athletes. When they come through and matriculate as student athletes, you know where they are. You don't need a search committee. It's whether or not these predominantly white institutions are going to begin to be more inclusive in their leadership positions.
2nd and 5, Landers fighting for the first down. It is close at about the 33. Charles?
And when you're talking about the leadership positions, you're talking about the athletic director, college presidents. There aren't very many athletic directors who are African-American on the Division 1A level. I think that number is probably less than what we have in terms of black head football coaches. Makes it very difficult when you don't have people in the front office fighting to bring in those types of candidates.
And the problem in the college game is you have to satisfy boosters and board of trustees. There's more advancement in the pro game where all it is about winning.
Yeah, but we have 5 NFL head coaches now who are
32 teams.
And the key that some people always come back to is money, and they think that college athletics, because it is a billion-dollar industry, is bringing in enough money. It's the trustees and the alumni. If you look at the endowment of many of the institutions, that's where the real money is.
Ruben Mays converts on a big 3rd and 1 for Grambling State to give the Tigers the lead. Back down to Darren.
Bob, I just wanted to add that Floyd Keith informed me that 26% of the military is made up of African Americans. They have 8% of their generals are African Americans. So he says it's interesting that our country entrust African Americans with life and death decisions. However, these colleges and universities are not entrusting football coaches to make calls at games.
Very interesting point on a 1st and 10. Quan trying to bounce it to the outside. Ab Quan trying to give Grambling State the lead, but he's pushed out at the 2. Quan is having a huge day.
Not a very exciting offense. As we have an injured player, not a very exciting offense going on, but just a methodical running game opening up huge seams for Grambling.
But what they've done, and I think that's Taurus Morgan, their star linebacker down for Southern to get the
face
call.
mask, number 34 on the defense, 5 yards, correction, half the distance to the goal, first down.
And following up on Don's point about the offense not being very exciting, what they're doing, though, is they're running the same basic plays from different sets.
Right.
They're showing the double wing back, they're shifting out wide, they're coming in tight, but it's still the same basic plays wrapped up in different packages. And Grambling right now is using that to their advantage.
1st and goal inside the 2 for Grambling State.
The big fellas, time for them to come forward and pound them.
Quan, the tailback. Quan has a seam right. Touchdown, Grambling State. And Ab Quan, his 2nd of the ball game, and the Tigers regain the lead.
And they call it old-time football. We have an expression, the more difficult things get, the more you go back to basics, and that's exactly what Grambling State has done with Coach Robinson's offense, back to the basics.
Went to the wing tee, and then when they got down close to the goal line and wanted that extra oomph, number 68, Tommy Durrell, came back in at fullback, helped lead.
Brian Morgan for the extra point. Knocks it right through. Ab Quan, 14 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a fumble recovery. Power football, back to basics in the 2nd half for Grambling State.
Old-time football, you see the big guy just getting a hat on a hat, and the big guy, Durrell, look at him, just blowing out the whole big block on the corner.
Now you got a block from Durrell, 68 on the corner, 27, Terrion Rogers at the top of the screen. Plenty of gaps for Ab Quan to go in. Just look at him right over here, coming right at you, right through that gap. Here comes Durrell, 68. There's the block, Terrion Rogers, number 27 at the top.
Simple formula. Touchdown, Melvin Spears and Grambling State. They regain the lead, 17-13 in the 31st Bayou Classic on NBC. Classic is brought to you by the United States Marine Corps, the few, the proud, the Marines. By Southwest Airlines, providing nonstop service to destinations coast to coast. And by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Visit a local agent today. In New Orleans, the 31st Bayou Classic. Pete Richardson, the head coach of Southern University, 10-1 against Grambling State in this football game. And Coach Richardson is not only a football coach, but he is truly an educator. So many of his student athletes have gone on to higher education, graduate school, law degrees. He talks a little bit about the student athlete of 2004.
For a student athlete, I realize he has the athletic ability, but now it's the process of him getting his education, because that's more important to me than anything else, because a lot of them have ambitions of going to the pros, and a lot of them will never have that opportunity, but you're still going to have to be able to work the next 40 years.
Get a look at what some of his student athletes are doing in the classroom. Greg Ackley at 3.63 in computer science.
His words are backed up by their actions. As we see them on the screen, and how important it is to get the education. As he talked about being able to work for the next 40 years, it could all end in one play. We've all played the game. We understand that as well as anyone.
Kickoff to the sideline, fielded by Turner. He's in a heap of trouble. He's going east to west, and he's going to be down inside the 5. On a kick he could have let go out of bounds.
Well, this game is an indication that you never know what's going to happen. And talking about Pete Richardson, when you just talk to his players, it's obvious that he's recruited young men who have an opportunity, a great opportunity, and they recognize it. They all understand the discipline that's necessary to be successful. And when you talk to these young men, you find out how many of them come from families where it may not always have been the best situation, but people got an education. Different members of the family went to Grambling or went to Southern, went to Texas Southern, and you hear that kind of talk coming from these players, and you find out that Pete Richardson brings in the type of young men that represent his philosophy in life and in football.
Rick's in a shotgun. He's going to run it out to the 10 and pushed out at about the 15-yard line. Grambling State with a 17-13 lead in this ball game.
And that guy, Thomas Ricks, is a prime example of that. Thomas Ricks has a 40-year-old boy, Collier, who's here at the ball game, knows what it means to be a leader, knows what it means to take on responsibility, and he's got a huge responsibility right now of getting his team back into this ball game.
And one of the guys he followed blocking was number 79, Thomas Salsby, seeking to be the first in his family to graduate from college. Another example of what Pete Richardson has done for a lot of young men.
Ricks will run it again. Picks up 5, picks up 7 more yards. That's 10 carries now for 69 yards. You know, Ab Kwan has 2 rushing touchdowns, his 9th of the season, the 19th of his career in just 2 years. And he's accomplished all this while rushing for less than 1,000 career yards.
That's a great stat. Now, how about this one? I'm going to add on to that one. Do you know at one point during this season, he only gained 10 yards and 13 carries in about a 3-game stretch? And now he's back running with abandon.
2nd and 3 for Southern. Ricks. There's a flag on the play as he got bounced around at the 25-yard line. We'll check on the flag.
These poor officials, they're going to need to ice down their arms after a game like Sandy Koufax did when he was pitching.
Well, let's take a look at the current State Farm statistics. Today's stats are brought to you by State Farm. For insurance and financial needs, call a neighborhood State Farm agent today. Rushing yards, Grambling State, 225 yards.
Look at this time of possession.
All in favor of the Grambling State Tigers.
That is just amazing in this ball game. Thinking about going back to the shootout from last year. In the previous years of how it's been such a shootout. And Charles?
Look what it translates into.
Absolutely.
A 17-13 lead for Grambling. The #1 stat always, right? The scoreboard.
And throw all that out the window right now. Southern has to, as you said earlier in the first half, don't panic. Don't panic in this ball game. Run your offense. Still plenty of time.
2nd and 11 after the holding penalty. Sidearm toss. And a nice catch made by Keenan Henderson, the junior from right here in New Orleans. A gain of 22 on the play. That's his longest catch of the year.
Yes, it is, and what a great job by the offensive line. Time for Thomas Ricks to throw. Sets up and throws with his three-quarter delivery and puts it right between the 3 and the 9 of Keenan Henderson as he runs a deep slant route. And then bounces off a tackle. Now he's getting yards after catch.
Which they are very good.
Proficient.
1st and 10. Ricks looking for Vernon on the out. Got him. Picked up 10 more, and it looks like another first down for Southern.
Now you're starting to see that Southern offense come alive. You're running the ball with Ricks. You start to loosen up. Remember I talked about loosening up that front four for Grambling. That's why he had no pressure in his face. They're looking for the run. Now he's starting to move the pocket around, throw on the move. You get your quarterback into the game. You get him into a rhythm, and then the offense opens up.
What we saw was the counter off of the quarterback run game, faking it inside. That's normally been a run. Now he pulls the guard, Lunda Wells, number 65, for a waggle route and throws it to the outside.
Ricks on the 1st and 10. Little draw play, takes it outside. He's got the first down, diving into Grambling State territory, shoved out at the 38-yard line. One thing, although there's still a lot of time to go here in the 4th, and there'll still be several possessions for each team, a missed extra point keeps Southern from playing for a tie at this point.
Which is a great point, because now everything has to be touchdowns in order for them to get back into the lead. And as you said, unable to tie the game, and possibly you're thinking overtime if it's late in the contest.
1st and 10 at the Grambling State 38-yard line for Southern. Ricks. And I think they're going to get Carter. No flag.
What?
Wow, looked like he had the shoulder of Vernon.
What a rare non-flag in this ball game.
Of all times, right? Look at Vernon, number 4, running the slant inside against number 28, Lewis Carter, and he's got him on the backside. He's got a hand on the backside, but the ball is tipped right there. Knocks it off flight a little bit. Looked like number 51, John Petty, I believe, if I'm reading the number correctly. And if that's the case, that takes away the interference call.
If the referee saw that tip. Come on.
Are you questioning his eyes on that one?
Shovel pass, this time to the tight end, Shellmeyer.
There's the flag.
Now a flag comes down.
One play after one we were looking for it, right? It could be a face mask inside.
You like that inside shovel pass?
I do, but I'm surprised it's going to Shellmeyer. Normally that would go to a back who's used to handling the ball in that type of a situation.
Remember, though, if that ball is dropped, that's an incomplete pass because it's a shovel pass.
I've never liked the shovel pass.
No?
Just something about that ball between the tackles.
Did you take it out of the offense when you were running it?
I never liked it.
On the defense, 5 yards. Results of the penalty. First down.
You told Coach McPherson himself, no, we're not running that.
You know, even Coach would signal a shovel pass in, and I would always tap my helmet. Like, I don't understand.
What is that called?
What is that called?
Check something else.
Then I point to my watch, like, we have to go, Coach.
Got to move on.
I'll call something else.
There was a face mask against Grambling State. And the referee, Hubert Owens, said first down.
Correction. The result of the penalty is short of the first down. It'll be second down.
It's 2nd and inches for Southern. You see Coach Spears working the officials.
On 2nd and inches might be a good time to take a shot downfield and come back if you want to and pick it up on 3rd down.
You got bump coverage on both outside receivers.
You got his man free back there. You got the safety Mills, number 4 in the middle of the field. Everyone else in man coverage.
Shellmeyer in motion. Ricks is going to run it. And he's got the first down. He ran right into Dimitri Carr. Then he gets thrown down hard. Play blown dead. But it's a first down for Southern. As Ricks checks his body parts and everything's in order, and he gets back up.
Quarterback run game again. Fakes it inside to the fullback. Trying to pick up the block on the backside from number 63. On that play, Jacoby Theory. And at the end of the play, whistle's already blown it dead.
1st and 10 for Southern. Ricks picks up a couple. Good pursuit to the football as Lance Gerard lost a helmet.
And they're definitely getting to that point with this offense where they're getting their rhythm down, and now Ricks has to start to play the game. Maybe he should have pitched at that time and get the ball out on the perimeter. He's in the rhythm now, but you can see that he's much more engaged now. He's involved in, I think, in the play selection and also in having more options of run pass or run pitch.
I mean, this drive started at the Southern 4 after the poor kick return. Blitz on, little slip screen left, and Taylor made the tackle and actually lost some yardage as Lewis Carter closed quickly.
Second time this game we've seen them try and run some type of a kick screen or a jailbreak screen to the outside, but the problem is you can't run it against a hard corner.
Right.
A corner that's rolled up in what they call cover 2, who's playing either bump and run or within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, because there's not enough space for the offensive lineman to get out and kick block him. He'll come underneath it and make the play.
Big play here, Don. 3rd and 12.
Once again, both of those plays, Charles, I don't know if he's reading those outside corners, because again, on 2nd and 1, he had those bump corners and didn't take advantage of it.
Ricks looking for Vernon, incomplete, nearly intercepted by Mills. Well, Ricks had Vernon, but he put too much air under it.
And behind him. Because Vernon was running towards the flag.
What he has to do is he has to throw this ball flat and pull Vernon to the boundary. That time he put some air on it and pushed him towards the middle of the field. He has to throw it flat and outside and get Vernon to flatten out his route and into the ball.
If you throw it to the boundary, you have protection out there. Throw it inside, that's where the defensive backs are coming from.
Ackley on a 33-yard field goal attempt. Well, 43 yards, and again it's blocked. Another kick block. And Fassett falls on it at the 41-yard line. Second block kick today by Grambling State.
And Pete Richardson talked about special teams yesterday, that this game was going to come down to big plays on special teams.
And he told Darren Horton before the game 2 things: take care of the football and win on special teams. Another low kick, trying to get the ball into the air because it's a long kick, but it appeared that Hatcher got his 2nd block of the ball game, his 3rd of the season. Jason Hatcher, number 90.
And really very little elevation on these kicks.
Both times, as we mentioned before, on longer kicks, kickers need to have more, less elevation because it's a longer kick, but that's too low. It never got over the line of scrimmage.
So the sophomore physical education major, Jason Hatcher, 6'6", 285 pounds, blocks his 2nd field goal of the ball game. And now Grambling State with the lead and great field position and their strong ground game. Can they pull off the upset on NBC? Bruce Eugene injured in week 1, knee surgery, unavailable all season long. Interim head coach Melvin Spears says, though, it's been a learning experience for Eugene.
I really thought it was a blessing in disguise for Bruce Eugene to get injured, because now he has an opportunity to see it from afar, see it from a coaching perspective, to understand the small, intricate parts of the game. And I think he's been a great cheerleader and a great coach for Brandon Landers. He's helped him tremendously because he's in every meeting with him, cheering him on. And you'll see him on Saturday on the sideline. He'll be down there looking for Brandon Landers.
Well, earlier today, Bruce Eugene was actually in pregame warm-ups, guys, trying to pump up his teammates.
Yeah, and credit the coaches for keeping him engaged, putting him in uniform, gets the rest of the team engaged and involved, and he's been the spirit of this Grambling State football team for the past 2 years.
Darren Horton has been following Bruce throughout the afternoon. Darren?
Well, guys, Bruce Eugene may not be playing in this game, but he certainly is having an impact. The first person that Brandon Landers hears from when he comes to the sideline is Bruce Eugene. Interestingly enough, Melvin Spears says much of the advice that Eugene is giving Landers sounds very familiar. It's what Spears has been telling Eugene for years. Interesting how our perspective can change.
It was so funny talking to Brandon Landers, and he said that Bruce Eugene tells him, just be patient, let the game come to you. I said, did he tell you what he was like as a freshman? Because I remember when Bruce Eugene was getting started, and that was his problem, not letting the game come to him. Great advice to pass on to the young man.
And if Bruce Eugene were in right now, I would expect Grambling to attack.
Absolutely.
But he's not in. Let's see what they do.
Work out of the wing tee, and Ruben Mays not able to get much. Well, last year, Bruce Eugene firing it up in this football game in the Bayou Classic. 26 of 48, 409 yards. He ran it on the ground as well for 80 yards as the leading rusher. But in the waning moments, intercepted. And tremendous anguish for Bruce Eugene as they came up short in the Bayou Classic with a chance to advance to the SWAC championship game. He's hoping for a 6th year of eligibility due to injury. Quan, he has 2 touchdowns. Looking for more. Quan to the 20, and Phillips shoulders him out. 25-yard pickup for Quan.
And one of the responsibilities of a good running back is setting up your blockers. Number 78, Charles Wilson, pulled on this play. Watch him get out front and rumble with Quan. See that inside-out dip move? That allowed Wilson, C78, to get downfield and get a block deep on number 34, Victor Phillips. See how he set it up? That the dip move, got outside. That allowed Wilson to run downfield like he was a running back.
We've seen a lot of athletic plays from these offensive linemen on both sides of the ball, and there's Quan going over 100 yards.
3rd straight game he's been over 100 yards.
And a timeout called on the play. And Quan, Quan is having a remarkable game today. He's over 100 yards. He has 2 touchdowns. He's played a key role on special teams.
And here's the fake punt early in the ballgame, set up 3 points for Grambling early in the game.
32-yard run.
This him
fast,
doing his thing the rest of the game. Remember, guys, we saw him last year getting one of his early starts in the Bayou Classic, and they expected him to be the guy all year long. And here he is scoring earlier today. But Melvin Spears said he wasn't taking care of the little things earlier in the year, so he got demoted. He said, remember he told us in the meeting, he's been in the doghouse a little bit, but they've let him back out, and today he's off the chain.
And remember, in the first half, on Gabe Wallace's punt return into Grambling State territory, he recovered the Wallace fumble on the punt return.
Right, that was set up by Matthew Dewey, knocking the ball free.
And sometimes when you're in the doghouse, you work a little bit harder. And you know that old expression, the harder I work, the luckier I get. and this is a classic example right now of a guy who's working very hard in the right position to make big plays.
Definitely making his own luck.
Quan with 25 and 21-yard runs in the second half alone. Mays. Morgan on the tackle at the 11-yard line with help from Charles Lemons. And another thing on that Quan run before, remember Morgan of Southern was shaken up earlier. He didn't seem to have that same speed, and they've got to be getting tired. The Southern defense, they've been on the field all game.
Great observation. I was thinking the exact same. I was going to ask both of you guys, is it just me, or do they seem tired and a little bit discouraged right now on the Southern defensive side?
And especially when you go back to the stats through 3 quarters, 30 minutes they've been on the field.
The rushing yards today for Grambling.
2nd and 4. This time Mays loses a couple.
Holding
John Connor on the tackle.
Holding Grambling to a field goal attempt right now is crucial for the Southern defense. Cannot afford to give up a touchdown. Nice play there by the Southern defense. It's number 96, Keyshawn Connor.
To this point, this might be the biggest play in the ball game right now, with 3rd and 7 for Grambling State. They're trying to finish the year over the 500 mark. This is their bowl game, they told us, at 5 and 5.
Look at them from a tight formation. Don't be surprised with a run-pass option from Landers here.
Quan in motion. Quan to the outside. Quan on Phillips, fighting for the marker.
Oh, the spot's going
to be big.
He's got it with the spot.
They spotted at the 7.
And the first time he put his foot down, I thought he was short.
Exactly.
I thought the second time the official put his foot down. But watch again. That's number 78, Wilson. Out leading one more time. Quan gets out ahead of him this time. He tries to use the stiff arm, made famous by Walter Payton of Jackson State, and gets out of bounds. Huge first down for the Grambling State Tigers.
Very big first down. Charles, earlier we talked about consistency. That was the same ball, same play they ran, same run play. When you're down, your bread and butter, go to it.
How about Darren Horton sticking his nose in there? He's right by the marker.
Darren Horton had the spot.
1st and goal. Grambling State in front. Mays gobbled up by Morgan. No gain on the play, but this fine for Grambling State right now. We use some clock.
Exactly. You know, when I look back to 2 plays ago when I said Landers might come out with a run-pass option from the tight formation, I think the Grambling defense, the Grambling bench was saying, no. We're in 2-down territory on 3rd down. We're going to run it twice and get what we can out of it. Tars Morgan, their star linebacker, coming out yet again.
Coach Richardson needs his team to force a turnover here.
You know what you do if you're Grambling? You find his replacement and go right at him and test him right away.
I don't think Grambling's thinking anything but what they've been doing.
just keep doing it, right? Because it's working.
2nd and goal. Quan picks his way, powering his way to about the 2.
Great inside running by Ab Quan. Picking the holes, didn't lower his head, kept his head up, and picked his way through that front. You'll watch Quan pick his head. You know, some guys will drop the head right there and pile into the crowd. Kept his head up, bounced another.
He ran with his eyes because he had to have vision because the play was designed to be a trap to the left, and he ended up cutting it back to the right because the trap never occurred.
3rd and goal at the 2 for Grambling State. Landers, Quan, touchdown! His 3rd of the ball game. Melvin Spears says go for 1. Matt Dewey dancing it up. What a game for Ab Quan for Grambling State, the junior with 3 touchdowns.
What a game for Ab Quan, and what a game for the offensive line of Grambling State that has done such a fantastic job opening up holes for the run game.
Let's get,
and protecting Landers when they need to throw the ball.
Let's give them all kinds of credit. Jonathan Banks, number 77. Charles Wilson, 78. Tavares Cockrell, 67. Darrell Rogers, 76. And Andre Bennett, 79. They've been great all afternoon.
And don't forget those tight ends.
Exactly. Matt Dewey, 87. Matthew B. Healy, 86.
And Taris Morgan, who got nicked up on the last possession, down and hurt.
And Derek Governor, number 88, has moved from a tackle position to tight end today, has been prominent also. But Taris Morgan had just come back into the game. Remember, he went out for a play, came right back in, tries to make the tackle on Ab Quan. I think a lot, in a big pileup, anything can occur because guys are falling on each other. You're getting twisted around. But another thing, he is tired, guys. Right. The whole defense is exhausted.
And you don't know why he went off the field for the last injury. It may have been that he just came back on the field because he needed to be there on the field. He may have been hurt coming back on the field, so you just never know.
One of their 3 captains and the only captain on the defensive side.
Taris Morgan, who is a very studious young man, marketing major. His dad owns 10 McDonald's in the Tennessee, Chattanooga area, and very thoughtful because, and Don, you can relate to this because you do a lot of writing. He likes to write to relieve some of the pressure and stress and how to express himself by writing.
You know, one of the things when you're a football player, especially a big guy like that, you don't expect that he challenges emotions in a positive way. You think they get it all out in the field, and he challenged it through his writing. He challenged it through thinking and being contemplative about things, and talked a lot about that yesterday, about his writing.
Morgan's extra point right down the middle. Impressive drive for Grambling State. Ab Quan, 3 consecutive 100-yard rushing games, 3 touchdowns today in the 31st Bayou Classic. And Grambling State doing it the old-fashioned way, guys, with power football.
It's almost the Smith-Barney way, isn't it? They earned it because they just came right at them. Trap plays, power plays, but the running game prominent this afternoon.
The Eddie Robinson way.
Eddie Robinson
there you
way,
go.
Exactly right.
Ab Quan has made key contributions on special teams, and he's found the end zone 3 times.
You know, you have to give credit to Grambling State on so many different levels in this ball game, but you also have to look at Southern and wonder what were they thinking, where was their motivation coming into this game fighting for a SWAC championship.
But Grambling State is a young team, and although they lead it, you got to play out all 60 minutes. Ab Quan has 3 touchdowns. Southern gets their chance after this timeout. Welcome back to the 31st Annual State Farm Bayou Classic. Visit a neighborhood State Farm agent today. The New Orleans Superdome. Bob Papa, Don McPherson, Charles Davis, Darren Horton, and Lewis Johnson. Grambling State has dropped 10 of the last 11 Bayou Classics. In the 2001 Bayou Classic, it was a victory for the Grambling State side. Quarterback Randy Himes threw 3 first-quarter touchdown passes, and then he'd run for another one. A 27-0 lead for Grambling State in this football game. Grambling State held on for a 30-20 win, giving Coach Doug Williams his first and only win in 6 Bayou Classic contests. Get a look at the ledger. Pete Richardson is known basically nothing but winning in this rivalry. A victory by Southern today would put them in the SWAC championship game. They are the defending SWAC champions, guys.
And you know who's watching this game with so much interest and right now are waiting for the party to begin? The University of Arkansas Pine Bluff Lions, led by their head coach Mo Forte, because they know that if Grambling wins this game, their next game is against Alabama State, who's clinched in the East, and if they beat them, they go to the SWAC championship game. And you see the standings right there. And Charlie Coe, the coach from Alabama State, has already said he plans to rest his starters in that game because he's clinched a spot.
Albert Turner. Albert Turner. Good field position for Southern. And they say he stepped out at the 35-yard line. Well, Ab Kwan is having a fabulous ball game. For more on the talented running back from Grambling State, we send it down to Darren.
Well, Bob, I just talked to Ab Kwan. I asked him what possessed you. 3 touchdowns in this Bayou Classic. He said to me, he said, listen, the coaches told me throughout the week, save your legs. You're going to need your legs on Saturday. Well, that certainly has turned out to be prophetic. Let's go back upstairs.
Well, Ab ties a single-game career high with 3 rushing touchdowns, 18 attempts, career high. Grambling State with 29 rushes in the second half. Ricks, he's going to run it. Gets a couple and got hit hard at the 39-yard line.
Don, can they afford to have Thomas Ricks running the ball much in this situation with 4 minutes to go in the game and down 2 touchdowns?
They don't have a choice. They need Thomas Ricks to make good decisions right now in the pass game. Get first downs with his feet if he needs to, but throw the ball down the field. But make sure that you are that only running back in this ball game right now. Get first downs with your arm. Get first downs with your feet. They can't afford him not to be running the football.
Bounces that pass to Emil Bryant.
Tough part, too, is they're out of timeouts. You know, and so when you look at Pete Richardson's team, they can't stop the clock in case they get into a bad spot. Everything has to be hurry up no matter what. They can't turn and go timeout if they don't get out of bounds or what have you now. So everything has to be hurry up. They have to use first downs as their quick timeouts to get up to the line of scrimmage because the clock stops there.
Exactly.
2-possession game. Remember, a missed extra point would force Southern to have to go for 2. Ricks on 3rd down. Going to run with it. Looking for Bryant deep, but it's out of bounds and incomplete.
No, Charles, I made that point that Ricks has to run the football, but he has to make smart decisions running the football. That means always going towards the line of scrimmage. Don't go backwards and put yourself in a position where you're taking yourself in negative territory. He's got to make good decisions in the run game and also know the clock when you're scrambling around. Don't want to take too much time scrambling.
Downfield, number 75 on the offense. That penalty is refused. 4th down.
Mania Smith, the left tackle, downfield as Ricks was running for his life.
Isn't that the danger of scrambling?
Absolutely.
Quarterback, you get people leaking downfield.
Especially when you make a move towards the line of scrimmage and then go back, your offensive linemen think you're going to take off. So they go down the field and start to block down the field. Then you release the football, ineligible man downfield.
Now Southern has to go for it here, down 2 scores. With 2:32 to go, out of timeouts, and the play clock is down to 7.
And Ricks took a big hit on the last play. You wonder if he's woozy or not from that last shot.
4th down for Southern. Flag on the play. Ricks gets sacked by Petway. Ball comes loose. They're going to rule him down by contact. And let's check on the flag. You know how the laundry is always the most important thing.
And Southern seems to be indicating it's against Grambling.
Grambling State was offside, so
it still won't give them enough.
Right, it'll still be 4th down, but Southern gets another crack at it.
Now it's 4th and short.
Defensively, Grambling State has remained aggressive all game long, and now they smell it. Now they know they're close.
Offsides. Number 55 on the defense. It'll be 5-yard penalty. It'll still be 4th down.
I think he must have lined up offsides because I didn't see anyone jump. So you got to be conscious of where you're lining up. Kenneth Petway is so anxious to get to the quarterback because the run game is disregarded at this point. You don't even worry about it. The old cliche of pinning your ears back and going, they're in sprinter stances now, the defensive linemen.
But now on 4th and 1, Southern needs to move the chains. So they run the draw. Quarterback draw. Ricks has the 1st down in midfield. That'll stop the clock on the 1st down.
Now they got to get up and line up because the clock stops for the chains to get set. But once they're set, the clock restarts. So they have to be on the line of scrimmage ready to go. See Ricks now calling out plays. There's Melvin Spears on the sideline trying to get his defense set.
1st and 10. Ricks. Great completion of only a couple of yards. Fassett on the tackle. Completion to Rogers-Taylor.
Great open field tackle by Greg Fassett. Another flag on the play.
You got a little pushing and shoving going on.
Getting a little chippy right now. The emotion of this game, and right now, Southern seeing their SWAC dreams go out the window. Tell you, going to be rotator cuff problems for these poor officials.
After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 79 on the offense, 15 yards from the end of the run.
You talked about Pete Richardson and the things that he stresses with his ball club. You talk about special teams, which is all about detail. You talk about penalties, all about discipline. Here you are in a critical point in the ball game. You cannot afford to have mental breakdowns.
Your frustration can't come bubbling to the surface here.
1st and 21. Ricks, only a 3-man rush. Nobody open downfield. And Ricks still gets sacked back at the 27-yard line. John Petty gets his 3rd sack of the season.
And the problem for Thomas Ricks on that route is that he has all of his receivers kind of coming lateral to the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have anyone pushing up the field.
Watch the middle of the field right here. Michael Daig with a monster hit. Right there, he took away a potential receiver for Thomas Ricks. As he came across the middle, Daig took him out.
3rd and forever now. Bryant open, but it's batted away. A.J. Bacard comes in, the sophomore from Houston. And now it is 4th and long, and Pete Richardson is going to punt the football away.
And unlike the end of the first half, that time Grambling State put their secondary back. They put their linebackers back with their nickel and dime players in the game and went to a zone coverage.
With 2:15 to go on the clock, he's punting it away. The only thing I can think of is that he's hoping for a big play in the special teams. You know, and faking it here, if you're Grambling, you're playing punt safe. You're not even bothering to rush because you want to make sure there's no fake.
And then it's a 4th and 31. Mills from his own 28. Mills goes to the turf at the 33-yard line. 42-yard punt, 4-yard return, 2:04 to go. Southern out of timeouts.
I've got to say, I'm puzzled by that. You're out of timeouts. It's your only shot. You're down 2 touchdowns. Why would you punt the football away?
Well, you go from giving them a sure 3 points if you give it up in that territory with one 1st down to at least holding them, having another shot at it.
Championship dreams slipping away from Southern. Grambling State up 24-13 with the football in the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic on NBC. Welcome back to the 31st annual State Farm Bayou Classic. Visit a neighborhood State Farm agent today. Bob Papa, Don McPherson, Charles Davis, Darren Horton, and Lewis Johnson. Southern comes into the ballgame having won 10 of the last 11. A chance to go to the SWAC championship. They are the defending champions, and they find themselves on the short end right now of a 24-13 score as Grambling State has just run the football right at the Jaguars in this second half.
The emotion has not changed from the very beginning of this day for both teams. Grambling has been loose. They've been excited. They've been excitable. And Southern just seemed tight all day long.
And one of the good things Grambling has done is they've kept the Jaguar Nation and their crowd at bay for most of the ball game. That started early and has continued. And how about the stats in the second half, Bob, and running the ball?
29 rushes, 2 pass plays. Taking the pressure off that young man, true freshman Brandon Landers. Power football, the story of the day. Mays picks up a couple. Remember, Southern is out of timeouts.
About the only thing that's gone right, starting with halftime for Southern, is that I think that they won the Battle of the Bands again.
State Farm game stats, 269 yards rushing. Almost 35 minutes of clock.
Is that called the perfect blueprint? I mean, if Melvin Spears had drawn it up before the game, he could not have drawn it any better than what we're seeing right there in terms of what he wanted, especially in the rushing yardage, controlling the clock.
And you bring up a great point that Melvin Spears deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the job that he's done with this ball club, not just today, but all year long, keeping things together, keeping his team together, keeping his coaching staff together when there were all the questions of an outstanding job of keeping this team together. And today, perfect game plan.
Today's Watch and Win brought to you by Ebony Magazine and Southwest Airlines. Write down the code displayed on screen, then log on to ebony.com for a chance to win a trip for 2 to the Caribbean or to next year's State Farm Bayou Classic.
Talk about a referendum for a job interview. Melvin Spears has stated his case today about continuing to be the head coach at Grambling.
The interim head coach and Rogers lost the football. Trudeau has it for Southern with 37 seconds to go.
This has been the day for Southern. They get a break with 37 seconds. It's not a big enough break.
Have to strike right now. Onside kick, get it again, strike again. That's all they've got left. They cannot run around and take a sack. They can't take too much time. Ball being run inside by Terrion Rogers, number 27. And as he's going down, the ball's popped free by Victor Phillips, number 34. Their free safety began the season at corner, covered by Ahmad Trudeau.
Safeties are deep. Ricks underneath.
Got to throw the ball down the field. That's the only thing. Grambling's been giving them the flats. They said it yesterday. They'll give you the flat. Well, you know what? They're going to give you the flat right now. You have to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, I would think now you just send your deep guys and you force one and you hope they make a play.
Everybody always talks about taking what the defense gives them. Well, sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you have to take what you need, or at least attempt to. That's where Southern is right now.
False start against Southern.
And with 33 seconds left, you have to make something happen.
Southern would need a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, an onside kick, and then a field goal in the final 31 seconds.
False start. 65 offense. 5 yards. Repeat first down.
Remember at the end of the first half when Grambling blitzed and didn't have a free safety and Southern scored? Well, they're not going to take that chance now. They're running people all the way back to make sure that they have someone deep to try and play a deep pass.
And they have Heyman, a wide receiver, one of their tallest players, back deep. Underneath, Daig nearly got the interception for Grambling State.
You know, Bob, I'm sitting here just watching this whole scene, and the Southern sideline is not even moving. They're not even excited that they have a chance right now.
They're numb.
It's a remote chance, but they're not even excited that they have a chance. Look at them. These guys are sitting down when they have an opportunity to win a football game here. They have an opportunity to make something happen. They're sitting down. It seems like they've already given up.
I guarantee you in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, the party has started. They might even be going out to practice right now to try and get ready because they now have a chance to go to the SWAC championship game if they can beat Alabama State on December the 4th.
Pass behind Vernon, Melvin Spears. And the celebration underway with freshman Brandon Landers. A true freshman.
What happens if Bruce Eugene does get a 6-year of eligibility from the NCAA? What happens with Brandon Landers next year? Does he take a red shirt year?
He might. I wouldn't red shirt him. No, I think he had the experience. You bring him along, you continue the developmental process.
Ricks on 4th down. Over the head of Vernon, incomplete. And the party starts on the Grambling State sideline with 17 seconds to go. Ab Kwan, 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 consecutive games of over 100 yards rushing.
Bob, the party is not limited to the Grambling sideline. This one goes all the way up to northern Louisiana.
Melvin Spears making sure his squad stays on the field, don't want any penalties.
And that's part of good coaching also, understanding to play it all the way through. He said he wanted 60 minutes. Remember he told Darren Horton that? A full 60-minute game, something they haven't done all year. Well, take away the play at the end of the first half. They've come as close to a 60-minute game as you can get.
59 minutes and...
Yeah, 59, 55.
56 seconds.
4 seconds.
About 4 seconds, right?
And now the greatest formation of all for a football team, the knee.
Victory formation, take a knee.
Ab Kwan, marvelous football game. Melvin Spears, the interim head coach, leads Grambling State to a 6-5 mark. First Bayou Classic win for Grambling State since 2001. It's been a controversial year for the Tigers program. But Melvin Spears said, this is our championship. Let's win it today.
Melvin Spears deserves a tremendous amount of credit for keeping his team together all year long. He said it yesterday that his job as a head coach is to coach his coaches, and his coaches coach the players, and he has had a difficult year of keeping his coaches positive with all the distractions, all the things going on. He came into this ball game with a game plan, protect his young quarterback right there. Look at the big smile from that young man. And he came out in the second half, great adjustment at halftime, Charles, and went to the run game, went to that man right there, Ab Kwan, and took control of this ball game.
And make no mistake about it, they beat a great program and a great coach in Pete Richardson, a Hall of Famer.
Well, Melvin Spears sends out his flag as far as wanting the job at Grambling State, a Grambling State lifelong fan, understands the history of the school, respects the history of the school, and he wins the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic, and it was back to basics in Coach Eddie Robinson's playbook in the second half.
I'm glad you mentioned Coach Rob. I'm sure he's sitting at home with a smile on his face,
watching it on the big screen.
Watching it on the big screen.
And he's got to be very proud of what he saw today. And if you're the Grambling administration, don't wait too long if you want Melvin Spears.
And how about the motivation that he used with Ab Kwan, who struggled early in the year, but he stuck with him, and he said, you continue to work hard, you'll get your chance again. And he certainly did.
Great coaching psychology.
Well, today's key player highlights are brought to you by the United States Marine Corps. The few, the proud, the Marines. It was more than a few yards for Ab Kwan. First, the 32-yard fake punt.
Ab Kwan took advantage of the big play on special teams and also the big play of the offensive line. You see those guys out in front of him blocking all day long, and the big opportunity that this Grambling State coaching staff put the game in his hands, especially in the second half, and gave him some power back, gave him some control of his football game. He stepped up and made a difference.
Helped Grambling convert on a lot of second and third and longs today.
18 carries, 126 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and throw in a fumble recovery on a punt fumbled by Wallace of Southern. And with the line that Ab Kwan has put together, he is one of our State Farm players of the game. T.R. Ricks, 176 yards passing, and the touchdown, and Ab Kwan from Grambling State University.
As much credit as we're giving Ab Kwan, don't forget the defense of Grambling too.
So Grambling State pulls off the upset, 24-13. A lot more to come from the Superdome in New Orleans, plus Lewis Johnson in our New York studios, all coming your way after these messages from your local station. Grambling State Tigers pull off the upset in the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic. 24-13, the final score. Disappointing day for T.R. Ricks of Southern. Ab Kwan, the game's most valuable player, and Grambling State and interim head coach Melvin Spears win their bowl game and finish the year at 6-5 with the 24-13 victory here at the Superdome in New Orleans in the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic. Ab Kwan, 3 rushing touchdowns in the ball game. Bob Papa, Don McPherson, and Charles Davis. And old-fashioned football was the key for Grambling State today.
Yes, it was. And they had to make sure that they took care of their freshman quarterback, Brandon Landers. Great game plan coming in. Great adjustment at halftime in recognizing what they can do in the run game.
All right, let's take a look at the State Farm final statistics from this football game. And it's on the ground, and especially in the second half. 279 yards. They control the clock, and they keep Southern's defense on the field.
And that was the big key. That 36-21, holding on to the football, keeping Thomas Ricks on the sideline, not allowing him to get into a rhythm.
Well, let's talk about the quarterback, because we talked a lot about Brandon Landers, a true freshman coming into this game for the injured Bruce Eugene. And it was spotty early, but he settled down in this football game.
It was, and they knew coming in he was a young man. His first experience with the Bayou. He came into the season not even thinking he was going to play all year. He's been at the helm, and the jitters showed early. First of all, Southern did a good job of giving him pressure. His teammates didn't help him out here and there. He started to miss guys early, but then he got some lucky breaks. Defense playing very well, also the lucky breaks. Started to settle down in his game. The run game was opening up. Then he started completing passes. He started engineering this offense, calling some basic, simple plays, and got a lot of help from Ab Kwan, who had an outstanding day. Other guys had to step up to compensate for the young quarterback.
And Brandon Landers gets a win, gets a little rub from his teammate Bruce Eugene, who is hoping for a 6th year of eligibility. And no matter who's the quarterback for Grambling State next year, they know that they'll have Ab Kwan back. And Charles, a marvelous football game for Ab.
And he made Brandon Landers' day that much easier, not just by himself either. Ruben Mays also came through for him. But Ab Kwan got things started. This fake punt, when they recognized an overshift by Southern's defense, called it on the line of scrimmage, snapped it, 32-yard gain, set up the first field goal of the game for Grambling. And from that point on, Ab Kwan made the most of his opportunities. The 3rd straight game now as he closed out this season with him over 100 yards rushing. Huge offensive line that was quick and nimble as well, that opened up big holes for him. And the fullbacks leading, especially Tommy Durrell, number 68, right, an offensive lineman that they moved to the backfield to give them more punch in the running game.
Okay, and quickly here, Southern, a chance to go back to the SWAC championship game. Now they need help, and they're probably not going to get it.
Well, Charles mentioned it earlier. Arkansas Pine Bluff right now is licking their chops. The door has been swung wide open for them. It puts Southern in a very difficult position now. They have to sit back and wait to see if they get in.
All right, the Grambling State band on the field and celebrating this huge victory, an upset victory. 24-13, the final score as Grambling State wins the 31st State Farm Bayou Classic. And an impressive performance today. And they might not have won the Battle of the Bands at the half, but they get the victory celebration. Don, some closing thoughts. Don, your thoughts on this day. You like Grambling State coming in?
I do. I like Grambling State, and I thought for the simple reason that they had nothing to lose. They let it all go, let it all hang out. A lot of people stepped up knowing that they had a freshman quarterback. I think that Melvin Spears got the icing on the cake that he deserved for dealing with such a difficult year.
And Charles, a very sound effort in all 3 phases for Grambling State.
Yeah, they took care of everything. Offense, defense, and the kicking game. We've talked offense so much, the defense not getting their due. Great job against a high-powered Southern offensive attack.
Well, as they bang the drums on the field, they bang the ground game today for Grambling State, and Ab Kwan was the key with 3 rushing touchdowns. Old-fashioned football. They took out a couple of Eddie Robinson plays with that wing tee, and they dominate the ball game. Once again, the final score from the Superdome, Grambling State 24, the Southern Jaguars 13. Coming up next on NBC, except on the West Coast, it's your local news. And coming up tonight on NBC, it's the perennial holiday classic, It's a Wonderful Life. The 31st annual Bayou Classic goes to Grambling State. For Darren Horton, Charles Davis, Don McPherson, and of course Lewis Johnson in our studio, I'm Bob Papa saying so long. Grambling State 24, the Southern Jaguars 13. So long from the 31st annual State Farm Bayou Classic.